You drift now into the oldest of dreams, where time has not yet learned to flow, where space has not yet learned to hold. You float in the vast emptiness that came before all things, before light knew darkness, before up knew down. This is chaos, the first of all existences, the gentle void that cradles everything yet to come. You breathe slowly, deeply, as you witness the birth of all that is. From this tender darkness, from this soft and endless night, the first beings emerge like whispers on the wind. They do not burst forth with violence or haste. No, they unfold like petals in the morning dew, each one a gentle awakening in the cosmic dream. First comes Gaia, Mother Earth herself, rising from the void like a warm breath on a winter morning. You feel her presence surrounding you, solid yet soft, ancient yet eternally young. She is the ground beneath your feet, the soil that holds the seeds of all life. Her heartbeat becomes your heartbeat, steady and slow, rhythmic as the turning of seasons. From the same primordial darkness, Tartarus emerges, the deep places of the world, the hidden caverns where shadows rest in peace. You sense him not as something frightening, but as the quiet depths where all souls eventually find their rest. He is the gentle darkness that calls to you at the end of each day, inviting you to close your eyes and drift away. Eros floats into being, not yet the cherubic child of later tales, but the ancient force of attraction, of connection, of the gentle pull that draws all things together. You feel his influence like the soft gravity that holds the stars in their courses, the tender magnetism that makes flowers turn toward the sun. Night herself, Nyx, spreads her dark wings across the void. She is not harsh or cold, but warm as a mother's embrace, her starry cloak settling over everything like the softest blanket. You pull this darkness close around you, feeling safe in her protective shadow. Her children are the dreams that visit you each evening, the peaceful sleep that heals your weary spirit, and from night comes day, Hemera, her daughter, bright and gentle. She does not shatter the darkness with harsh light, but seeps through slowly like honey through cheesecloth, golden and warm. The transition from night to day becomes a slow dance, a gentle waltz of light and shadow that rocks you deeper into tranquility. You watch as Erebus, the darkness below, mingles with his sister night, their union creating the rhythm of time itself. Not the frantic ticking of modern clocks, but the slow, patient pulse of eternity. Dawn and dusk, twilight and midnight, each flowing into the next like waves upon a peaceful shore. From the void also comes the gentle flow of time. Kronos, not yet the Titan with his harvesting scythe, but the soft river of moments that carries all things forward without urgency. You float upon this river now, feeling the current carry you through the ages, past and future blending into one eternal present moment. The air itself takes form in ether, the bright sky that reaches beyond the clouds. You breathe him in, feeling your lungs fill with starlight and possibility. He is the space between spaces, the pause between heartbeats, the silence between notes that makes music possible. These first beings do not war or struggle. They simply exist, each finding their place in the cosmic dance. They are the foundations upon which all stories will be built, the deep harmonies that will support every melody yet to be sung. You feel yourself becoming part of this primordial piece. Your breathing slows to match the rhythm of creation itself. Your heartbeat synchronizes with the pulse of the emerging cosmos. You are witnessing the birth of everything, yet it feels like the most natural thing in the world, like coming home to a place you have always known, The void that was chaos slowly fills with these gentle presences, yet it remains vast and peaceful. There is room for everything here, space for all possibilities. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Each new being emerges in its perfect time. Like fruit ripening on an ancient tree, Gaia stretches herself across the emptiness, becoming the solid foundation for all that will come. You rest upon her broad back, feeling her strength supporting you. She is patient as stone, yet alive as growing grass. Her mountains are her thoughts, her rivers, her dreams flowing across the landscape of eternity. The sea comes into being, not as Poseidon yet, but as the primal waters, the endless ocean that mirrors the sky. You float upon these waters, feeling them rock you gently back and forth. These are the waters of birth, the first element, the source from which all life will eventually emerge. You sense the stirring of potential in these early moments of creation, not the sharp anticipation of coming conflict, but the soft expectancy of a garden about to bloom. Seeds are being planted in the cosmic soil, seeds that will grow into gods and heroes, monsters and mortals. But for now they rest quietly in the darkness, gathering strength for their eventual flowering. The wind begins to move across the face of the deep, not as harsh storm, but as gentle breeze. It carries with it the breath of life itself, the inspiration that will one day animate all living things. You breathe with this wind, feeling it fill you with peace and possibility. Colors begin to seep into the gray void like watercolors bleeding into wet paper. Not bright or startling, but soft pastels that blend and flow together. The deep blue of twilight, the silver of starlight, the gold of distant dawn. They paint themselves across the sky in layers so thin you barely notice their arrival. Sound enters the world as well, not as music yet, but as resonance, as the deep thrumming that holds everything together. It is the sound of your own heartbeat magnified across eternity, the rhythm that underlies all existence. You listen to this primal song and feel your consciousness begin to drift on its waves. The first age of the world is one of quiet becoming. Nothing dramatic happens because drama has not yet been invented. There is only the slow unfolding of potential, the gentle emergence of the elements that will shape all future stories. It is like watching the first light of dawn spread across a still lake. So gradual you barely notice it happening until suddenly the whole world is transformed. You are a witness to this cosmic dawn, floating in perfect comfort as the foundations of reality settle into place around you. The primordial beings acknowledge your presence with gentle nods, welcoming you into their ancient circle. You belong here, in this place before time, in this moment before story, in this peace before all the grand adventures yet to come. Your eyelids grow heavy as you rest in this primal garden of being. The soft voices of chaos and order, night and day, earth and sky blend together into a lullaby that has been singing since before the first star learned to shine. You let yourself drift deeper into this cosmic cradle, knowing that when you wake, the real stories will be ready to begin. But for now, you simply float in the gentle void, surrounded by the first gods, cradled by the mother of all things, breathing the air of eternity itself. This is where all stories begin, in the quiet space before the first word is spoken, in the darkness before the first light dawns, in the silence before the first song finds its voice. Asterisk, asterisk, and you are here to witness it all, from the very beginning, as the greatest story ever told prepares to unfold around you like a flower opening to the morning sun. In this first age of wonder, the boundaries between sleep and waking do not exist. You find yourself drifting between states of consciousness as naturally as clouds drift across the sky. The primordial beings move around you in slow, graceful patterns, their forms shifting like shadows on water. Never quite solid, never quite gone, Gaia begins to dream, and her dreams become the first landscapes. Rolling hills emerge from her sleeping form, gentle valleys carved by her sighs, mountains rising with each deep breath she takes. You walk through these dream landscapes, your feet making no sound on the soft earth, your passage disturbing nothing in this perfect stillness. The rivers begin as tears of joy from Mother Earth, flowing slowly across her surface like silver ribbons in moonlight. You dip your fingers into these primal waters and taste the sweetness of creation itself. These streams will one day become the sacred rivers that gods and mortals will know. But for now, they are simply the gentle circulation of Gaia's life force, meandering without purpose or destination above you. The first sky takes shape as Uranus, though he has not yet learned his name. He is the dome of stars that wheel slowly overhead, the vast canopy that holds all weather and all light. You lie on your back in the soft grass of Gaia's first meadow and watch the constellations write themselves across his surface. Stories in starlight that will guide sailors and lovers in ages yet to come. The marriage between earth and sky happens without ceremony, without witness save yourself. It is as natural as breathing, as inevitable as sunrise. You feel the gentle tremor as they join, the subtle shift in the cosmic rhythm as to become one, become many. From their union will come the first children of the gods. But that tale waits patiently in the wings, while this moment of perfect peace continues. Night continues her eternal dance, her dark robes flowing around the world like water around a stone. Her children begin to emerge from the folds of her garments, Sleep himself, gentle Hypnos, who will one day visit mortals with his gift of rest. You feel his presence even now, his soft touch on your eyelids, his whispered promise of dreams to come. Dreams themselves take form as the onaroi, not yet the complex visions they will become, but simple patterns of light and shadow that play behind your closed eyes. They dance for you now, these first dreams, showing you glimpses of all the stories that will unfold in the ages to come, but softened and blurred like reflections in still water. Death comes too, but not as the harsh reaper of later myths. Thanatos emerges as a gentle presence, the quiet sleep that knows no waking, the final rest that all souls eventually seek. He nods to you with infinite kindness, letting you know that even endings can be beautiful, that even farewells can be gifts of peace. The fates begin to spin their first threads, though they do not yet know themselves as the three sisters who will control destiny. For now, they are simply the pattern that holds everything together, the gentle rhythm that ensures each moment follows naturally from the last. You feel these threads brushing against your skin like spider silk, connecting you to every story yet to be told. Love itself takes many forms in this primordial garden, not just Eros with his cosmic pull, but all the gentle attractions that will bind the world together. The way water seeks its level, the way fire reaches toward air, the way earth supports and nourishes all growing things. You feel these attractions working within your own body, drawing you deeper into the embrace of the cosmic harmony. The first music begins as the spheres learn to sing together. Each heavenly body contributes its note to the great symphony, a chord so deep and perfect that it can only be felt rather than heard. Your bones resonate with this music, your blood flows in time with its rhythm. This is the song that will inspire all earthly music, the source of every melody yet to be composed. Colors continue to deepen and multiply, painting themselves across the void in layers of increasing richness. You see the deep purple of twilight learning to blend with the gold of sunset, the silver of starlight discovering how to dance with the blue of deep sky. These are not just hues but emotions, each color carrying its own feeling, its own gift of beauty for the world being born. Time reveals more of itself to you, showing you how it flows not in a straight line but in great circles. Seasons and ages turning like wheels within wheels. You ride these circles now, feeling yourself carried back to the beginning and forward to the end and back again. Understanding that in the realm of myth, all moments exist at once. The elements begin to know themselves and each other. Earth, solid and patient, water flowing and adaptable, air, light and ever-moving, fire bright and transforming. They greet each other like old friends meeting after a long separation, each recognizing in the other's parts of their own essential nature. You breathe all four elements, feeling them merge within you as they merge within the cosmos. Sacred spaces begin to appear, though no temples have yet been built. You discover groves where the presence of the divine is so strong it makes the air shimmer. Springs where the water reflects not your face but your soul. Mountains whose peaks disappear into clouds that dream of heaven. These will become the holy places of the world, but for now they are simply beautiful, simply peaceful, simply there. The boundary between self and cosmos grows ever thinner as you rest in this primordial embrace. You are becoming part of the story you witness, your breath adding to the wind, your heartbeat joining the pulse of creation, your dreams beginning to blend with the dreams of the sleeping earth. As this first age draws toward its gentle close, you feel the stirring of new possibilities in the cosmic womb. The time of pure peace and perfect harmony cannot last forever, for stories require change, and change requires the friction of different wills meeting. But that transformation approaches not as violence, but as natural growth. As inevitable as a child outgrowing its cradle, you settle deeper into the soft embrace of Mother Earth. Your head pillowed on clouds of starlight, your body supported by the dreams of the first gods. The lullaby of creation continues around you, its rhythm slowing as even the cosmos prepares for sleep. In this moment before the greater stories begin, you are perfectly at peace, perfectly safe, perfectly held by the loving hands of beings so ancient they. Remember when silence was the only language and darkness was the only light. Let yourself rest here in this cosmic cradle, breathing the first air, drinking the first water, warmed by the first fire, supported by the first earth. Soon the age of the Titans will dawn, bringing with it the first stirrings of conflict and change. But that dawn waits patiently beyond the horizon, while you float in this eternal twilight. This perfect moment when all things were possible and nothing was yet necessary. Sleep now in the arms of chaos and order, night and day, earth and sky. Let the primordial peace fill your dreams as the greatest story ever told prepares to continue its ancient song. You drift deeper into the ancient dream, carried forward on gentle currents of time to witness the first stirrings of divine family. The perfect stillness of the primordial age begins to shift, not with violence or sudden change, but like the slow turning of seasons, natural and inevitable as dawn following night. Gaia, Mother Earth, grows restless in her slumber, not with the harsh awakening of mortal sleep, but with the deep stirring of creative forces within her cosmic womb. You feel her movement beneath you like the slow breathing of a sleeping giant. each rise and fall of her chest reshaping valleys and hills. Her dreams have grown larger now, more complex, filled with visions of children yet unborn. Above her, Uranus stretches across the heavens in endless blue embrace. He is no longer just the dome of stars, but a presence, vast and encompassing, his love for Gaia flowing down like gentle rain. You look up through eyes heavy with cosmic drowsiness and see him there, his form made of sky and wind and the space between heartbeats. Their union deepens with each passing eon, and from this deepening love come the first true children of divinity. Not the abstract forces of the primordial age, but beings with personality, with will, with the seeds of story growing within them. Yet still they emerge gently, born not through pain but through the natural overflow of divine affection. The first to come are the Titans, 12 in number, 6 sons and 6 daughters, each one a force of nature given form and consciousness. You watch them take shape in the womb of earth and sky, growing like flowers in an eternal garden. Nourished by starlight and morning dew, Oceanus flows into being first, the great river that will encircle the world. But he is not yet the rushing torrent of later ages. Here, in his birth moment, he is a gentle stream of consciousness, meandering through the cosmic landscape with the patient wisdom of water that has all time to reach its destination. You dip your spirit into his waters and taste the salt of ancient seas, the sweetness of mountain springs, the clarity of rain falling on summer leaves. Cous emerges as questioning itself, the deep curiosity that drives all learning. You feel his presence as a gentle stirring in your own mind, the soft wonder that makes you want to understand the beauty unfolding around you. He is not harsh intellect, but the loving attention that sees the divine in every detail of creation. Cries becomes the constellation maker, the one who will teach the stars their names and show them how to dance in orderly patterns across the night sky. You watch him weaving starlight into stories, each constellation a gentle tale told in points of light. His touch makes the chaotic scatter of early stars begin their slow waltz into the patterns that will guide sailors and dreamers for all the ages to come. Hyperion glows into existence as the light that comes before light, the illumination that makes seeing possible. Not the harsh brightness that burns, but the gentle radiance that reveals beauty without destroying mystery. You bask in his soft luminance, feeling it warm your spirit like sunlight filtering through leaves. Iapetus takes form as the forward-moving force, the gentle current that carries all things toward their destiny. You feel him as the tide that lifts all boats, the wind that fills all sails, the quiet confidence that tomorrow will bring new wonders. His presence makes you want to rest easy, knowing that time itself is carrying you toward beautiful destinations. Kronos emerges last among the suns, and even here in his birth you sense something different about him. Not dangerous yet, not the devouring father of later tales, but restless in a way his brothers are not. He stirs in his cosmic cradle like a child who dreams of running before he has learned to walk. The seeds of his future hunger are planted here, but they sleep still beneath the gentle influence of his parents' love. The daughters of earth and sky flow into being like music made visible, each one a different note in the harmony of creation. They becomes the sight that sees beauty, her eyes reflecting the glory of all that is and all that will be. When you look at her, you see yourself as the gods see you, radiant with possibility, crowned with starlight. Rhea emerges as the flowing rhythm of life itself, the pulse that will one day beat in every mortal heart. Her presence feels like the perfect heartbeat, steady and strong, the rhythm that holds all other rhythms together. You feel your own heart slowing to match hers, finding peace in her eternal constancy. ***. Themis takes form as the gentle law that needs no enforcement, the natural order that all things follow because it feels right to do so. She is not the harsh judge, but the inner compass that always points toward justice, toward balance, toward the harmony that makes all life possible. Her presence makes you feel aligned with the cosmos itself. Mnemosyne flows into consciousness as memory itself, the golden thread that connects all moments into one continuous story. Through her, you remember not just your own past, but the past of everything. The long dream of creation stretching back to the first stirring in the void. Her gift makes you part of the eternal story, a character in the cosmic epic that began before time and will continue after endings. Phoebe emerges bright and clear as the light of understanding, the gentle illumination that comes not from outside but from within. Her radiance helps you see the connections between all things, the way each story fits into every other story, the way all separate streams flow toward one great ocean of meaning. Tethys completes the circle as the nourishing flow, the source from which all rivers spring and to which they all return. She is the breast that feeds all life, the well that never runs dry, the spring of renewal that ensures nothing beautiful is ever truly lost. In her presence, you feel deeply nourished, cared for by the universe itself. These 12 Titans do not arrive all at once, but unfold gradually, like a song that adds one note at a time until suddenly you realize a whole symphony is playing around you. They greet each other with the easy familiarity of siblings who have always been together, even before they knew they existed. They play together in the cosmic garden of their parents' love, their games shaping the world without effort or intention. When Oceanus laughs, new springs bubble up from the earth. When Hyperion smiles, the first golden hour spreads across the sky. When Rhea dances, the seasons learn their first tentative steps. But earth and sky's love bears stranger fruit as well. From their deeper, more primal unions come beings of awesome power and alien beauty. The Cyclopes emerge, not yet the one-eyed smiths of later tales, but forces of focused creation, each one a living lightning bolt, a thunderclap given form and consciousness. Brontes arrives with the sound of distant thunder rolling across summer skies, not frightening but comforting, like the rumble of a great cat purring. His single eye sees straight to the heart of all metals, understanding how to shape raw earth into tools and treasures. You hear his hammer ringing softly in the distance, forging the first implements of divine will. Sterops flows into being as the flash of inspiration, the brilliant moment when understanding strikes like gentle lightning. His presence illuminates problems and reveals solutions, not with harsh analysis, but with the sudden joy of recognition. His light helps you see the patterns hidden in complexity, the simple truths that underlie all mysteries. Arges emerges as the bright energy that powers all making, the force that turns thought into reality. His radiance teaches matter how to hold new shapes, shows the chaotic elements how to dance together in harmony. Under his influence, you feel your own creative powers stirring, the ability to imagine and then manifest. These Cyclopes are not monsters, but angels of creation, their strange forms beautiful in their perfect fitness for their cosmic purpose. They bow respectfully to their Titan siblings, taking their place in the growing family with gentle dignity. From the deepest places of the earth's sky, union come the Hecatantias, the 100-handed ones, Catus, Briareus, and Gyges emerge not as terrors, but as the infinite capacity for gentle service, each hand ready to help, to hold, to heal whatever needs tending in the growing cosmos. They move like living mountains, but mountains that flow like water, their 100 hands always busy with the work of love. One hand guides a newborn star to its proper place in the sky. Another catches a falling tear before it can become a rainstorm. A third weaves morning mist into patterns of incredible beauty. You watch them work and understand that true power is always in service of something greater than itself. Gaia looks upon all her children with eyes bright with joy, each birth adding to her happiness rather than diminishing it. There is no jealousy here, no competition for her love. She has room in her vast heart for all of them, space on her broad back for every divine footstep. Her laughter becomes earthquakes of pure delight, reshaping the landscape with each wave of maternal joy. Uranus spreads himself wider across the heavens to accommodate his growing family, his blue embrace encompassing all. He sings to them with the voice of wind through trees, tells them bedtime stories written in the movement of clouds. His love falls on them like rain, like snow, like the gentle pressure of air that lets them know they are held and cherished. Yet, even in this time of perfect family harmony, you sense the first stirrings of change in the cosmic wind. The children grow larger, stronger, more complex in their desires and dreams. The simple joy of existence begins to yearn for expression, for action, for the chance to shape reality according to their own visions. Kronos especially seems touched by this restlessness. His eyes already looking beyond the boundaries of his parents' embrace toward horizons that call to something hungry within him. But that hunger sleeps still, patient as a seed in winter soil, waiting for the right season to sprout for now. The cosmic family rests together in perfect contentment. Parents and children intertwined like lovers, like flower petals in an endless garden of delight. You rest among them, adopted into their circle of affection, lulled by the rhythm of their collective breathing as they dream dreams that will reshape the world. The age of pure harmony draws toward its gentle close, but its ending will be like sunset, not like breaking. Beautiful in its own way, a transformation rather than a destruction. The stories that will follow grow from this soil of love, watered by tears of joy, warmed by the endless devotion of earth and sky for each other, and for all their strange and wonderful children. Sleep deeper now, cradled in the arms of the first family, protected by the 100 hands of infinite service, illuminated by the gentle light of the Cyclopes, carried on the flowing current of the Titans toward whatever dreams await in the turning of the cosmic wheel. Asterisk, asterisk, dot, dot, dot. Asterisk, asterisk. You drift forward through the cosmic dream as the age of perfect harmony begins to shift like sand through an hourglass. The change comes not as violence or sudden rupture, but as the natural growing of children who have outgrown their cradle. Even conflict, when it emerges from love, carries within it the seeds of greater beauty. In the depths of Earth's embrace, a shadow begins to grow. Not the harsh darkness of evil, but the complex shadow of a parent's love turned possessive. Uranus, Skyfather, looks upon his children with eyes that have grown cloudy with a strange new fear. These beings he helped create have grown so beautiful, so powerful, that he begins to worry they might outshine him. You feel his unease like distant thunder, rumbling far below the horizon of consciousness. It is not malice that moves him, but the first taste of the fear that will plague all rulers in all ages to come. the fear that those they love might one day no longer need them. His embrace of Gaia grows tighter, more possessive, like arms that hold too close. One by one, as his children are born, Uranus begins to push them back into the hidden places of their mother's body. Not cruelly, but with the gentle insistence of a parent who cannot bear to let the children leave home. Back into the secret caverns they go, back into the warm darkness beneath the world, where they cannot challenge his dominion over the sky. Gaia feels this pressure like a deep ache in her bones, the weight of unlived lives pressing against her heart. Her children kick and stir within her depths, not with violence, but with the natural restlessness of growth denied its expression. She loves her husband still, but love that constrains begins to transform into something more complex, more painful. You descend with her into the deep places where her hidden children dwell. Here, in the root caverns of the world, the Titans learn patience. They do not rage against their confinement, but grow stronger in the darkness, like seeds that gather power in the soil before they break into the light. Kronos moves among his siblings like a gentle leader, his earlier restlessness now focused into something approaching purpose. He speaks to them in whispers that sound like wind through caves, reminding them of the sky they have barely seen, the freedom that waits beyond the curve of their mother's protecting arms. The Cyclopes work in the deepest forges, their single eyes seeing clearly in the darkness that would blind others. Their hammers ring softly against cosmic anvils, shaping tools for a purpose not yet revealed. Each strike is measured, patient, the sound echoing through the caverns like a heartbeat counting down to some gentle awakening. The Hecatoncheires tend to their siblings with countless hands, bringing comfort in the long waiting, weaving stories in the air to pass the time until time itself might change its rhythm. They are not plotting rebellion, but simply maintaining hope, keeping the flame of possibility burning in the depths. Asterisk years pass like slow breaths, and still Uranus holds his children in the womb of the world. Gaia's patience grows thin, not from anger, but from the deep maternal wisdom that knows when protection becomes prison. She begins to dream of solutions, her thoughts moving like slow rivers through the bedrock of reality. In the deepest cave, she calls her children to her. They gather around her like petals around the heart of a flower, their divine radiance casting gentle light on the stone walls. When she speaks, her voice carries the weight of mountains and the softness of fertile soil. She tells them of the world above, painting pictures with words of valleys that need rivers, of plains that need seasons, of skies that need the dance of weather to bring them alive. She speaks of the work that waits for them, the cosmic garden that needs their tending, the songs of creation that need their voices to complete the harmony. From the depths of her sorrow and love, she brings forth a gift for her children. The adamantine sickle emerges from her flesh like a flower blooming from stone, its edge sharp enough to cut through the bonds of even divine constraint, yet crafted with such care that it hums with gentle purpose rather than harsh violence. She offers it to each of her sons in turn, not as a weapon of war, but as a tool of liberation. Most turn away, not from cowardice, but from the deep reluctance to raise hand against the father they still love. Only Kronos reaches forward, his fingers closing around the handle with the certainty of destiny fulfilled. You feel the weight of that moment, like the pause between lightning and thunder, heavy with potential but not yet released into action. Kronos holds the sickle not with bloodthirsty joy, but with the solemn responsibility of one who knows that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The time of action arrives, not with fanfare, but with the simple necessity of dawn following night. Uranus descends, as he has countless times before, to embrace his wife, to hold the world in his cosmic arms. But this time, hidden in the shadows of Gaia's love, Kronos waits with the patience of stone and the readiness of flowing water when the moment comes. It comes like the completion of a long-held breath. The sickle moves not in rage, but in the steady motion of harvest time, separating what has grown too large for its container. You close your eyes as the deed is done, feeling the cosmic shudder that runs through all creation as the age of Skyfather's rule comes to its gentle end. The pieces of Uranus's divine essence scatter across the cosmos like seeds on fertile ground. Where they fall into the sea, the waters begin to foam and churn, not with violence, but with the creative turbulence of new life stirring. From this foam, beauty itself will one day emerge. But that story waits patiently for its proper season. The drops that fall upon the earth soak into the soil like rain after drought, nourishing the roots of new stories. The Furies emerge from this sacred blood, not as demons of vengeance, but as the stern compassion that ensures all debts are paid, all wounds are healed, all imbalances corrected in their proper time. The ash tree nymphs spring up where the divine drops touch the ground, their silver bark recording the memory of this moment for all time. They whisper the story to every wind that passes, ensuring that the wisdom gained through this necessary transformation will never be lost. Kronos stands in the aftermath of his deed, the sickle falling from hands that shake not with guilt but with the weight of power newly inherited. The sky above shifts and changes, no longer the possessive embrace of a constraining father, but the open invitation of infinite possibility. The stars rearrange themselves into new patterns, spelling out the beginning of a new age in letters of light. The Titans emerge from their long imprisonment, like flowers opening to the first dawn they have ever seen. They do not burst forth with violence or triumphant shouting, but rise with the slow majesty of mountains being born. Each one stretches divine limbs that have grown strong in the darkness. Breathing the free air of the upper world for the first time, Oceanus flows outward to embrace the world with his waters. His streams and rivers finally free to find their natural courses. Hyperion rises toward the heights, ready to kindle the lights that will guide the world through its days and nights. Kus turns his face toward the stars, eager to begin the great work of understanding that will fill libraries yet unbuilt. The Cyclopes emerge, blinking their single eyes in the unaccustomed brightness, their hands already reaching for the tools they will need to forge wonders for the new age. Thunder welcomes them with gentle rumbles of approval. Lightning dances at their fingertips like tame serpents happy to serve. The Hecatoncheires stretch their 100 arms toward the sky in gestures of gratitude and greeting, ready to build whatever the new world will require with their infinite capacity for patient labor. Mountains will rise under their touch. Valleys will be carved by their gentle persistence. The very shape of reality will flow like clay in their countless hands. Kronos takes his place as the new ruler of the cosmos, but his rule feels different from his father's. Where Uranus held tight, Kronos allows to flow. Where the old king constrained, the new one encourages growth and change. The golden age that follows is golden not because of the metal's rarity, but because of its malleability, its willingness to be shaped into whatever form beauty requires. Time itself changes under Kronos's reign, becoming less like a constraining boundary and more like a river that carries all things toward their proper destinations. You feel yourself floating on this new current of time, no longer held back by the fear of change, but carried forward by the confidence that all transformations serve the greater harmony. The seasons learn there, dance under the gentle guidance of the Titans. Spring follows winter, not as conquest follows defeat, but as joy follows rest. Each season playing its part in the eternal symphony of renewal. Summer blazes with generous warmth. Autumn gives its gifts with open hands. Winter sleeps in peaceful preparation for the rebirth, always waiting just beyond. The longest night, mortals have not yet been born, but you sense their possibility stirring in the cosmic womb like children eager to be born. The world grows ready for them under the Titans' care. Each valley shaped with love, each river guided with wisdom, each mountain raised with the patient strength that will shelter generations yet to come. The age of the Titans becomes a golden dream of perfect governance, where power serves love and strength serves beauty. Kronos rules with the wisdom of one who has learned the weight of necessary action. His earlier restlessness transformed into the steady rhythm of cosmic responsibility. Yet, even in this golden time, you sense the seeds of future change stirring in the deep soil of destiny. For this is the nature of all stories. They must grow and change and transform, each age giving birth to the next in the eternal cycle of death and renewal that keeps the cosmic garden always blooming with new possibilities. But for now, you rest in the gentle governance of the Titans, feeling the world grow beautiful around you under their patient care. The revolution is complete, the new age begun, and all creation sighs with the relief of burdens lifted, possibilities freed, and love allowed to flow where it will. Sleep deeper in this golden time, cradled by the wisdom of necessary change, comforted by the knowledge that even the most difficult transformations can serve the cause of greater beauty. The story flows on toward new shores, but the current is gentle and the destination is always the same, the home where all stories end in peace, and all struggles are revealed as dancers in disguise. Asterisk, asterisk, you drift forward through the golden centuries, like a leaf carried on a gentle stream, watching as the perfect harmony of the Titan age slowly ripples with the first whispers of change. Even paradise, it seems, carries within itself the seeds of its own transformation, not from some flaw in its design, but from the very perfection that eventually calls forth new forms of beauty. In the deepest chambers of his mountain palace, Kronos begins to dream troubled dreams, not nightmares of violence or chaos, but the complex visions that visit all who hold great power, dreams of prophecy, of destiny, of the inevitable turning of the cosmic wheel that raises up and casts down all things in their proper season. The oracle comes to him in these dreams, not as harsh proclamation, but as gentle warning whispered on winds that smell of distant springs. One of his children, she tells him in her voice like rustling leaves, will grow to surpass him as he once surpassed his father. The wheel of succession will turn again, as it must, as it always has since the first moment chose to follow the second. You feel Kronos stirring in his cosmic sleep, the first shadows of the old hunger awakening in his divine heart. Not cruelty, not malice, but the ancient fear that has haunted every ruler since power first found a home in consciousness. The fear of being forgotten, of being replaced, of watching your golden age fade like sunset into the gentle darkness of another's dawn. When Rhea comes to him, heavy with their first child, Kronos greets her with eyes that have learned the weight of foreknowledge. She glows with the radiance of approaching motherhood, her form beautiful as flowing rivers, her joy pure as mountain streams. In her arms she will carry the future, wrapped in swaddling clothes of starlight and possibility. The birth comes gently, as all things came gently in that golden time. Hestia emerges from the cosmic womb like a flame kindled in perfect darkness, her presence immediately warming the halls of the Titan palace. She is the first hearth, the first home, the first welcoming light that makes any dwelling sacred. Her laughter sounds like the crackling of the first fire ever lit against the cold. But when Rhea places the infant goddess in her father's arms, you watch with eyes made heavy by inevitability as Kronos looks upon his daughter and sees not innocence, but ending. The prophecy whispers in his mind like autumn wind through dying leaves, and the old hunger stirs, not for food but for the terrible feast of time itself. He lifts the child to his lips with hands that tremble not with eagerness, but with the weight of what he knows he must do. The swallowing comes not as violence, but as the sad necessity of a father who believes that love sometimes requires terrible sacrifice. Down into the divine darkness of his being, Hestia goes, not destroyed, but held, kept safe in the only way a frightened father can imagine. Rhea watches with eyes that slowly fill with the first tears shed in the Golden Age. Understanding beginning to dawn in her heart like winter sun through clouds. But she says nothing, not yet. For she too has learned the weight of prophecy and knows that some stories must unfold according to their own inner necessity. The children come one by one through the turning years, each birth a new joy that becomes a new sorrow. Demeter emerges like the promise of harvest, her presence making the very air smell of grain and growing things. Her father lifts her to his lips with the same sad necessity, the same terrible gentleness. And down into his depths she goes to join her sister in the darkness that keeps but does not nourish. Hera arrives with the majesty of the sky goddess she will become. Her infant cries carrying the authority of thunder, still learning its voice. Into the depths she goes, her light adding to the glow that has begun to shine from within her father like swallowed stars trying to find their way back to the sky. Hades comes, wrapped in the mystery of the underworld he will rule, his presence bringing not death but the deep peace that comes at the end of all journeys. Even he cannot escape the hungry fear that has consumed his father's reason, disappearing into the divine darkness with the same gentle inevitability as his sisters. Poseidon flows into being like the ocean itself, his voice already carrying the sound of waves on distant shores, his breath smelling of salt and deep waters. The sea calls to him from outside the palace walls, but he too must answer the call of his father's fear. Joining his siblings in their strange captivity, with each swallowing, Kronos grows heavier, not in body but in spirit. The light within him brightens as more divine children gather in his depths, but his face grows darker with each passing season. Rhea watches her husband changing before her eyes, love curdling into obsession, wisdom souring into paranoia. The Golden King becoming something harder, more brittle, like gold that has been heated too many times. When she grows heavy with their sixth child, Rhea knows that something must change, not through violence or deception, but through the same patient wisdom that has always guided the movements of the earth. She begins to plan, not with cunning, but with the deep intelligence of mothers who understand that sometimes love requires courage more than obedience. She travels to the island of Crete, to the sacred caves where the earth dreams its deepest dreams. Here, surrounded by the gentle curates who dance their protective dances, she brings forth her youngest son. Zeus emerges into the world like lightning, learning to hold itself back. His presence, electric but not yet dangerous, powerful but not yet ready to claim his inheritance. Instead of returning to her husband with the child, Rhea wraps a stone in the swaddling clothes meant for divine flesh. But this is no ordinary deception. The stone itself has been blessed by her tears, transformed by her love into something that carries the weight of prophecy, the heft of destiny itself. It is not a lie she offers Kronos, but a different kind of truth. The truth that sometimes what we fear most is exactly what we need to save us. Kronos accepts the stone with the same tragic gentleness he has shown to all his children, lifting it to his lips without question, without doubt. Down into his depths it goes, and with it goes the seal that will eventually unlock all the transformations waiting in the cosmic wings. Meanwhile, in the caves of Crete, Zeus grows under the protection of the earth itself. The Curetes dance around his cradle, their bronze shields ringing against each other to mask the sound of divine laughter. Divine cries, divine growth unfolding in its proper season. The goat, Amalthea, nurses him with milk that tastes of starlight and possibility. Her horns already curved to hold the cornucopia of plenty he will one day pour upon the world. Nymphs sing him lullabies that teach him the secret names of all growing things. The bees of Ida bring him honey that carries the wisdom of flowers, the sweetness of summers yet to bloom. Springs whisper to him the stories of the deep places, preparing him for the day when he will need to navigate the underground rivers of divine politics. You watch him grow in his hidden paradise. This child who carries the future wrapped around him like a cloak of storm clouds. But even his power develops gently, like muscles strengthening through play rather than labor. His first lightning bolt comes not as weapon but as toy, crackling between his infant fingers like captured joy made visible. The seasons turn, and Zeus grows into his strength, surrounded by love rather than fear, nurtured by wisdom rather than paranoia. The contrast with his father's isolated fear becomes more pronounced with each passing year. Where Kronos holds tight, Zeus learns to give freely. Where the older god hoards power, the younger one discovers the joy of sharing strength. When the time comes for Zeus to claim his inheritance, the transition begins, not with war, but with healing. Metis, the Titan of wisdom, comes to him with herbs that smell of transformation, potions brewed from the same roots that taught the earth how to change with the seasons. These medicines carry no poison, only the gentle power to release what has been held too long, to free what has been constrained past the point of health. The approach to Kronos comes not as invasion, but as homecoming. Zeus returns to his father's halls, not with army at his back, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows his time has come. The old king looks upon this stranger and sees something familiar in his eyes, some echo of his own youth when he too carried the future in his hands like a bird ready to fly. The drink that Zeus offers his father tastes sweet on the lips, harmless as wine made from grapes that ripen in their own time. But its power works gently within the Titan king, loosening the knots of fear that have held his children captive, dissolving the bitter crystals of paranoia that have grown around his heart like salt in a drying sea. The liberation comes like dawn breaking after the longest night. First the stone emerges, still wrapped in its blessed swaddling clothes, proof that prophecy and love can work together when wisdom guides them both. Then come the children, not as they went in, but as they have become during their strange captivity. Poseidon flows forth, like a tide returning to its natural shores, his power deepened by his time in the depths, his understanding of the hidden currents of power made perfect by his enforced contemplation. Hades emerges with eyes that have seen the darkness from the inside and found it not fearsome but protective. not empty, but full of the peace that comes at the end of all stories. Hera rises like the dawn of queenly dignity, her time in captivity having taught her the patience that true authority requires, the depths that make surface beauty into something eternal. Demeter comes forth like the harvest finally freed from winter's grip, her joy in growing things made more precious by her memory of the time when growth was suspended. Hestia emerges last, her flame undiminished by its time in darkness, her warmth made more perfect by her understanding of cold, her welcome made more genuine by her knowledge of what it means to be held away from home. She looks upon her father not with anger, but with the compassion of one who understands that even gods can be trapped by their own fears. The reunion of the divine family happens, not in the throne room, but in the gentle gardens, where Rhea has waited through all the long years of separation. Mother embraces each returning child like spring rain embracing the earth after drought, her tears washing away the last traces of the darkness that held them captive. Kronos stands apart for a moment, no longer king, but not yet knowing what else he might become. The weight of his fear has been lifted, but the habits of power are hard to break, the patterns of paranoia difficult to dissolve even when their cause has been removed. He looks upon his children and sees not threats, but mysteries, not endings, but beginnings he cannot yet understand. Zeus approaches his father with hands empty of weapons, eyes clear of vengeance. The conversation they share happens in voices too soft for others to hear, but you sense the gentle current of forgiveness flowing between them like water finding its natural level. This is not conquest, but transition, not revolution, but evolution. The natural passing of power from one generation to the next. The golden age of the Titans draws to its close, not in fire and fury, but in the gentle satisfaction of a work completed, a task handed on to those who will carry it forward into new territories of possibility. The wheel turns, but it turns smoothly, oiled by wisdom and guided by love, rather than driven by the harsh gears of violence and revenge. As the old order transforms into the new, you feel yourself changing too, growing ready for the stories that will unfold when gods learn to walk among mortals. When divine power serves not just cosmic harmony, but the smaller, more complex needs of thinking, feeling, choosing beings who will soon populate the earth with their dreams and struggles. The age of Olympus dawns like the gentlest sunrise, painting the sky in colors that have never been seen before, promising a world where the divine and mortal will meet in stories that will echo through all the ages yet to come. Sleep deeper now, cradled in this moment of perfect transition, as power passes from the old gods to the new, like a torch handed from runner to runner in an eternal race that has no finish line. Only the endless joy of carrying light forward into whatever beautiful darkness waits to be. Illuminated ***, you drift deeper into the cosmic dream as the new Olympian age unfolds, like a flower opening to the first dawn it has ever seen. The world grows more complex now, more layered with possibility, as the younger gods begin to explore what it means to hold power not just over elements, but over the delicate architecture of consciousness itself, on the highest peaks of Mount Olympus. Zeus establishes his court with the wisdom of one who has learned that true strength lies not in domination, but in the gentle orchestration of different gifts working in harmony. Each of his siblings finds their proper sphere, their perfect note in the grand symphony of divine governance that will guide the world through all its coming ages. Poseidon flows down to embrace the seas, his trident not a weapon but a conductor's wand that teaches the waves their shows the tides their eternal dance of approach and retreat. Under his guidance, the oceans become highways for dreams, their depths holding secrets that will inspire poets and philosophers. For millennia yet to come, Hades descends willingly to the underworld, understanding that someone must tend the deep places where all journeys end. Someone must maintain the gentle twilight realm where souls rest between their various adventures in the light. His kingdom becomes not a prison but a sanctuary, the final home where every story finds its peaceful resolution. Hera rises to her throne beside Zeus, her queenly dignity teaching the very air how to hold itself with grace. Her presence brings the sacred quality to marriage, the understanding that when two consciousness join in love, they create something greater than either could achieve alone. Demeter takes the earth as her province, but not as conqueror. She becomes the gentle teacher of seasons, showing the soil how to rest and renew, instructing the seeds in the patient art of waiting for their proper moment to unfold. Under her care, agriculture will one day become not just survival but art. Hestia kindles the first hearth in the great hall of Olympus, her flame becoming the heart around which all other activities naturally gather. She is the center that holds the peace that makes all other adventures possible, the home to which all wanderers eventually return. The world grows beautiful under their stewardship, but it remains empty of the one thing that will make their rule complete: beings who can choose to love them, consciousness that can appreciate beauty, hearts that can offer freely given worship rather than mere instinctive obedience. In this time of divine settlement, your attention turns to one among the Titans who did not resist the change of power, who watched the rise of Olympus with eyes bright with possibility rather than dark with resentment. Prometheus moves through the world like a gentle wind that carries seeds to fertile ground, his mind always working on problems not yet solved, puzzles not yet even imagined. He is the forward-thinking one, the Titan whose vision reaches beyond the present moment to see what could be if the right conditions were carefully cultivated, while his fellow Titans mourn the passing of their age. Prometheus studies the new world with the delight of an artist who has been given fresh canvas and colors never before mixed. His brother Epimetheus walks beside him, but where Prometheus looks forward, Epimetheus looks back, his gifts lying in understanding what has been, in learning from experience, in making sense of completed stories. Together they complement each other like twin aspects of wisdom itself, foresight and hindsight, planning and understanding, hope and memory walking hand in hand. You follow them as they wander the empty landscapes of the early world, observing how the Olympian gods have shaped reality with their various gifts. Here a valley carved by one of Poseidon's playful streams, there a mountain raised by Hestia's gentle flame teaching stone how to reach toward heaven. Everywhere beauty, everywhere perfection, but nowhere the spark of conscious appreciation that would make all this wonder complete. The idea comes to Prometheus, not as sudden inspiration, but as the slow recognition of a need that has been growing in his heart like a plant, reaching toward light. The world needs witnesses, needs participants in its beauty, needs beings who can see wonder and say how beautiful, with voices that choose to speak rather than simply responding to instinct. He begins to gather clay from the riverbanks where Demeter's touch has made the earth most fertile, soil that has been kissed by rain and warmed by sun, made perfect through the patient work of countless seasons. This clay responds to his touch like a medium that has been waiting eons for the right artist to discover its potential. The shaping begins slowly, meditatively, like a prayer made visible through the gentle pressure of divine fingers. You watch as the first forms emerge, not crude or primitive, but elegant in their simplicity, beautiful in their potential for growth. These will be beings capable of learning, of changing, of becoming more than they are through the choices they make. Prometheus works with the care of a gardener, planting seeds for a harvest he will not see for generations. Understanding that what he creates must be strong enough to thrive in a world full of wonders and challenges beyond his ability to control. Each figure he shapes carries within it the capacity for both joy and sorrow, for both wisdom and folly, for both love and loss. The bodies he creates are delicate compared to divine flesh, but this fragility is not weakness but gift. It means they will know the value of time, the preciousness of each moment, the weight of decisions that cannot be undone. Their mortality will teach them to love more deeply, to appreciate more fully, to strive more earnestly than beings who have forever at their disposal. You watch him shape the faces with special care, creating eyes that can see not just light but beauty, mouths that can speak not just needs but poetry, hands that can hold not just tools but dreams. These beings will be capable of art, of music, of stories that transform mere experience into meaning. But clay, no matter how perfectly shaped, remains only clay until the breath of life awakens consciousness within it. Prometheus understands that he cannot create souls, that gift belongs to forces beyond even Titan power. But he can prepare vessels worthy of receiving. Whatever spark of consciousness the universe chooses to bestow, the moment of awakening comes not through dramatic intervention, but through the natural overflow of love that has guided the entire process of creation. As Prometheus looks upon his finished work, his heart fills with such tenderness, such hope for what these beings might become, that something of his own divine essence flows into them like water finding its natural level. You feel the first stirring of mortal consciousness, like the flutter of bird wings in the cosmic darkness. Not full awareness yet, but the beginning of it. The first tentative movements of minds learning to think, hearts learning to feel, souls learning to choose. The clay figures begin to warm, to soften, to breathe with the rhythm of actual life. They open their eyes like children waking from the deepest sleep, and their first sight is the face of their creator looking down at them with eyes bright with joy and concern. Prometheus becomes their first father, their first teacher, their first glimpse of the divine love that brought them into being. But these first humans are like newborns in more than just their innocence. They are helpless, unable to care for themselves in a world full of forces beyond their understanding. They have consciousness but not knowledge, awareness but not wisdom, the capacity for growth but not the tools they need to flourish. Prometheus looks upon their need with the same forward-thinking vision that shaped them in the first place. He sees them shivering in the cold, struggling to find food, gathering in fearful huddles when darkness falls. They need more than just life. They need the gifts that will make life worth living, the tools that will allow them to build civilization, to create beauty, to reach toward divinity through their own efforts. The greatest of all gifts lies in the possession of the god's fire, the element that transforms everything it touches, the force that can turn raw materials into tools, darkness into light, cold caves into warm homes. Fire is the beginning of all technology, all art, all the achievements that will distinguish humanity from the other creatures of the earth. But fire belongs to Zeus, and Zeus guards it jealously, not from cruelty, but from the same protective instinct that makes a parent hesitate before giving a child a sharp knife. Fire is power, and power in the wrong hands can bring destruction as easily as creation. Prometheus understands the danger, but he also sees the necessity. Humanity cannot fulfill its potential without fire, cannot grow into the beings he envisions them becoming without access to the transformative power that lies at the heart of all progress. Love sometimes requires risk, and parental care sometimes means letting go. The theft of fire happens not through violence or deception, but through the quiet determination of one who knows that some gifts are so necessary they justify any consequence. Prometheus approaches the sacred hearth of Olympus like a devotee approaching an altar, his heart heavy with the weight of what he is about to do. He carries with him a hollow reed, a fennel stalk that can hold fire without being consumed by it, carrying the flame from its divine source to the mortal world that waits in darkness. The theft is so gentle, it barely disturbs the flames. Like taking a single drop from the ocean, the source remains undiminished. But the gift becomes immeasurable. You follow him as he descends from Olympus, the stolen fire glowing in his reed like a fallen star that has agreed to serve rather than simply shine. The journey down the mountain becomes a pilgrimage, each step carrying the potential for transformation, each moment bringing closer the dawn of human civilization. The humans receive the gift of fire with wonder that borders on worship, understanding instinctively that they have been given something precious beyond all measurement. The first flame they kindle becomes their first altar, their first gathering place, their first glimpse of the power they carry within themselves to transform that world. With fire comes warmth that pushes back the cold, light that banishes darkness, the ability to cook food and forge tools and create spaces where culture can flourish. But more than these practical gifts, fire brings symbol and metaphor. The understanding that consciousness itself is a kind of flame that can kindle other flames. That knowledge shared multiplies rather than diminishes. The humans learn quickly, their minds eager for the knowledge that fire makes possible. They discover metallurgy, the art of shaping metal into tools that extend their reach and multiply their strength. They develop cooking, transforming raw materials into nourishment that feeds both body and soul. They create pottery, learning to shape earth with fire into vessels that hold not just water but meaning. Most importantly, they learn to tend the sacred flame, understanding that fire requires care, attention, the constant vigilance of those who would keep light alive in a world that always threatens to return to darkness. The hearth becomes the heart of human community, the place where stories are shared, where wisdom passes from one generation to the next, where the gift of consciousness learns to know itself through relationship. But Zeus, looking down from Olympus, sees the smoke rising from human fires and understands immediately what has happened. The theft of fire cannot be hidden, for fire announces itself wherever it burns, proclaims its presence with light and warmth and the transformation of everything it touches. The anger of Zeus comes not as rage, but as the deep disappointment of one who has been betrayed by someone he trusted. The sorrow of a ruler who sees his careful plans disrupted by the independent action of a subject he had considered loyal. This is not the fury of a tyrant, but the grief of a father who watches his authority. Challenged by love, the punishment he devises reflects not cruelty, but the complex justice of one who must balance competing loves: his care for humanity, his respect for cosmic order, his understanding that some gifts exact prices that must be paid by those who bestow them. Prometheus will suffer, but his suffering will teach important truths about the cost of love, the weight of responsibility, the price of transformative action, the chains that bind. Prometheus to the Caucasus Mountains are forged not of mere metal but of necessity itself, the unbreakable bonds that connect every gift to its consequences, every choice to its results. Here on his rock, the Firebringer becomes a living symbol of the love that accepts suffering for the sake of others, the dedication that endures pain to serve a greater good, the eagle that comes each day to tear at his liver is not mere torturer but teacher, its daily return demonstrating that some wounds heal only to be reopened, that some kinds of love require endless renewal, that the most precious gifts often demand the highest prices from those who would give them. Yet even in his agony, Prometheus does not regret his choice. Looking down at the world where human fires twinkle like earthbound stars, where civilization grows like a garden tended by mortal hands, he sees that the gift was worth the price, that love sometimes requires sacrifice that transcends personal comfort or safety. The humans, for their part, remember their Firebringer with the devotion of children who understand the cost of the gifts they have received. They kindle flames not just for warmth and light, but as offerings of gratitude, as reminders that consciousness itself is a sacred fire that must be tended with care, shared with generosity, passed down through generations like a torch that must never be allowed to die. And you, floating through this cosmic dream, feel the warmth of that first fire spreading through your own consciousness, understanding that you too carry within yourself the flame that Prometheus stole from heaven. Every thought you think, every choice you make, every act of love or creativity or hope is a small fire kindling in the darkness, a tiny rebellion against the entropy that would reduce everything to cold ash. Sleep deeper now, warmed by the sacred fire that burns at the heart of all conscious beings, comforted by the knowledge that love always finds a way to share its gifts. That sacrifice in service of others always kindles lights that no darkness can extinguish. The story of humanity has begun, and with it the complex dance of mortal and divine that will fill all the ages yet to come with wonder and sorrow and joy beyond all measuring. ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** ******************************************************************************************* different chambers of sleep, watching as humanity grows from its first tender beginnings into something more complex, more beautiful, more capable of both greatness and folly. The sacred fire that Prometheus gave burns now in countless hearths across the world, and by its light, the first heroes begin to cast their shadows across history. The world has grown larger since those early days, filled with wonders both bright and dark. Cities rise like flowers from the fertile soil of human imagination. Their walls built not just of stone, but of shared dreams, common hopes, the gentle agreements that turn strangers into neighbors and neighbors into family. Markets bustle with the commerce of ideas as much as goods. Temples reach toward heaven like prayers made visible in marble and gold. But growth brings challenges, as surely as spring brings both flowers and storms. The world fills with mysteries that need unraveling, monsters that need facing, wrongs that cry out for remedy. It is as if the universe itself calls forth heroes in response to these needs, shaping mortal souls with just enough divine spark to bridge the gap between human limitation and godlike possibility. In the island kingdom of Sirius, you watch as one such hero begins his journey toward legend. Perseus sleeps peacefully in his mother's arms, unaware that his dreams already carry the weight of destinies not yet fulfilled. Danae holds him close, her love a shield more powerful than any bronze or iron, her lullabies weaving protection around him like threads of starlight. The circumstances of his birth carry all the complexity of divine intervention in mortal affairs. Zeus had come to his mother not as conqueror but as golden rain, gentle droplets of light that spoke of love rather than force, of blessing rather than burden. From this union of mortal tenderness and divine radiance, Perseus emerged into a world that would demand both human courage and heavenly gifts. King Acrisius had feared the prophecy that spoke of death coming through his grandson's hand. But prophecies in this golden age work not through harsh inevitability, but through the gentle currents of love redirected. The fear that drives him to set mother and child adrift in their wooden chest serves not cruelty, but the strange providence that ensures heroes find their proper paths, even through apparent rejection. The sea that carries them becomes not an enemy, but a friend, its waves rocking their makeshift cradle like a vast mother singing them toward their destiny. Poseidon's dolphins guide them through the safe currents. His winds fill their tiny sail with just enough force to carry them toward the harbor where their new life waits to unfold. On Rithos Dictes, the fisherman finds them at dawn, his nets full not just of the sea's silver harvest, but of this greater treasure, a mother and child whose story will ripple across all the ages to come. His kindness needs no divine command, flowing naturally from the good heart that recognizes sacred cargo when the waves deliver it to his shore. You watch Perseus grow under the Mediterranean sun, his childhood a perfect blend of mortal joy and slowly awakening power. He learns to swim in the warm shallows, his body moving through water with a grace that speaks of his divine heritage. He learns to fish with patient hands, to tend olive groves with gentle care, to read the stories that stars write across the night sky. But even in this peaceful island life, the seeds of heroic destiny stir within him. His strength grows beyond that of ordinary boys, not brutally but beautifully, like a tree that reaches higher because its roots drink from deeper springs. His courage manifests not as recklessness, but as the quiet confidence of one who has never learned to doubt that good will ultimately triumph over evil. The call to adventure comes, as it must, through the intersection of love and danger. King Polydex looks upon Danae with eyes that burn not with the clean fire of honest affection, but with the smoky flame of possession disguised as devotion. His desire transforms him from protector to threat, from host to hunter, from the safe harbor into the storm that drives heroes toward their testing. The impossible task he sets, to bring back the head of Medusa, seems like death sentence disguised as quest. But impossibility often serves as invitation for those whose hearts carry the echo of divine possibilities. Perseus accepts the challenge, not with boastful confidence, but with the calm acceptance of one who trusts that what needs to happen will find its way to happen. The gods themselves seem to conspire in his favor, but their aid comes not as overwhelming intervention, but as subtle assistance that enhances rather than replaces his own courage. Athena appears to him in dreams that feel like conversations with his own deepest wisdom, teaching him the secrets he needs to know about monsters and mirrors, about how to face death without being destroyed by the sight of it. Hermes arrives like a friend who happens to have exactly what you need. His winged sandals offered not as divine favor, but as the natural result of recognizing worth when you see it. The sandals that will carry Perseus across vast distances become symbols of how Preparation and opportunity dance together in the lives of those ready to receive both. The shield that Athena provides shines not just with polished bronze, but with the clarity of purpose. Its mirrored surface teaching him that sometimes the most dangerous truths can only be approached indirectly, seen in reflection rather than faced straight on. It becomes both literal protection and metaphor for the wisdom that knows when to look away in order to see clearly. The cap of Hades renders him invisible not just to mortal eyes but to the despair that would otherwise overwhelm any soul attempting such a task. Wrapped in the darkness that serves rather than threatens, Perseus learns that shadows can be allies, that not all concealment serves deception, that sometimes the greatest courage requires the humility to approach unseen. The journey to the Gorgon's lair becomes a pilgrimage through landscapes that exist as much in the realm of symbol as geography. You follow him across waters that reflect not just sky but possibility, through forests where every tree whispers stories of heroes who passed this way before, over mountains whose peaks brush against the realm where mortal determination touches divine approval. The Grey Sisters guard the path like ancient librarians who keep the most important books locked away until the right reader appears. Their single eye and single tooth passed between them like treasures too precious for anyone to hold alone. Teach Perseus about sharing, about interdependence, about how wisdom often requires cooperation even from the most unlikely sources. His victory over them comes not through violence but through the clever kindness that recognizes what they need before they themselves understand it, by holding their shared treasures just out of reach until they provide the information he needs. He demonstrates the heroic quality that turns every encounter into opportunity for growth, rather than mere conquest. The approach to Medusa's cave carries the weight of approaching the most fundamental test of heroic character, the willingness to face what cannot be faced, to look upon what destroys all who see it, to touch what turns everything to stone. Yet Perseus moves forward not with grim determination but with the light step of one who has learned to dance with danger. The battle itself unfolds like a careful choreography between sight and blindness, between approach and avoidance, between the need to act and the need to preserve life. Using Athena's shield as mirror, Perseus learns to navigate by reflection, to act through indirection, to achieve victory through the wisdom that knows when not to look directly at the truth. The moment when his sword finds its mark happens not with brutal force, but with the precision of a surgeon removing something that has grown beyond its proper bounds. Medusa's death comes not as violence, but as release, the freeing of beauty that had been trapped too long in the prison of her own terrible power. From her severed neck springs Pegasus, the winged horse that will carry heroes through the skies of imagination for all the ages to come. His emergence teaches the profound truth that from the death of monsters often comes the birth of wonders, that what we fear most sometimes guards the very thing we need most desperately to find. The flight home on Pegasus's back becomes a journey through the geography of triumph, each wing beat carrying them closer to the resolution that will transform quest into legend, hero into myth, young man into the eternal symbol of courage rewarded by divine favor. Below them, the Mediterranean spreads like a vast blue mirror reflecting their passage, its islands scattered like stepping stones between the world of ordinary life and the realm of achieved greatness. The sea that once carried Perseus as helpless infant now witnesses his return as accomplished hero. the circle of his story completing itself with the satisfaction of prophecy. Fulfilled, the rescue of Andromeda happens not as planned diversion, but as a natural consequence of heroic character recognizing injustice and responding with immediate action. Chained to her rock-like sacrifice to appease the sea monster's hunger, she represents all the innocence that heroes are called to protect, all the beauty that monsters would devour if courage did not intervene. The sea creature that rises to claim her emerges not as mindless beast, but as symbol of all the forces that would reduce beauty to mere consumption, love to mere appetite, life to mere survival. Perseus faces it not with hatred, but with the calm certainty of one who knows that some things are worth fighting for. Regardless of personal cost, the battle above the waves becomes aerial ballet. Pegasus and Perseus moving through 3 dimensions like dancers who have practiced their steps in dreams. The monster's defeat comes not through overwhelming force, but through the perfect marriage of courage and skill, preparation and opportunity, human determination and divine assistance. Andromeda's freedom becomes symbol for every soul released from the chains that others would use to bind beauty to their own purposes. Her gratitude flows not as debt, but as recognition, the acknowledgement that heroes and those they rescue are partners in the dance of salvation rather than rescuer and victim. Their marriage happens not as reward claimed, but as love recognized. The natural union of souls who have seen each other clearly in moments when everything false falls away and only truth remains. Their wedding becomes celebration, not just of their love, but of the principle that heroic action creates the conditions in which genuine love can flourish. The return to Seriphos brings the story full circle. The hero who left as young man returning as king in waiting. The child who was cast adrift, now capable of calming any storm. King Polydex faces not the weak boy he thought to eliminate, but the man whose strength flows from sources beyond mere muscle, whose power comes from wells deeper than mere personal ambition. The revelation of Medusa's head happens not as cruel vengeance, but as inevitable consequence. The king's transformation into stone serving as final demonstration that those who would turn others into objects ultimately become objects themselves. Justice works not through external punishment, but through the natural result of choices made in freedom. Perseus places the crown not on his own head, but on Dictys, the fisherman whose kindness created the foundation upon which heroic greatness could be built. This gesture teaches the profound truth that heroes serve not themselves, but the communities that nurtured them. That strength finds its highest expression in lifting others toward their own possibilities for greatness. The wider world receives Perseus not as conqueror, but as inspiration. His story spreading like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. Children hear it whispered by firelight and dream of their own dragons to slay, their own princesses to rescue, their own impossible tasks that might prove possible when approached with courage seasoned by wisdom. Other heroes begin to stir in response to Perseus's example, each one a different note in the great symphony of human potential learning to sing itself into existence. The age of heroes dawns not with single trumpet blast, but with the gradual orchestration of many voices, each one contributing its unique melody to the eternal song of mortal souls reaching toward divine possibilities. Bellerophon tames Pegasus not through force, but through the patient understanding that wild things give their friendship only to those who approach with empty hands and full hearts. His adventures on the flying horse teach the lesson that the greatest journeys happen not across physical landscapes, but through the territories of the soul learning to soar. Theseus grows to manhood in Athens, his strength revealing itself not through bullying but through protection, his intelligence manifesting not as cleverness but as wisdom, his courage showing not as recklessness but as the willingness to face what must be faced for the good of others. The age fills with such figures, each one a different facet of the heroic ideal that humanity is learning to embody. They are not gods pretending to be mortal, but mortals learning to touch the divine spark that Prometheus planted in the clay of human nature. The sacred fire that burns most brightly when it serves not itself, but the larger light of which it forms a part. You float through these stories like a dreamer moving between different rooms of the same vast house. Each hero's tale a different chamber in the mansion of human possibility. The walls between their stories grow thin in sleep, allowing their lights to mingle, their courage to strengthen each other, their wisdom to flow like water, finding its common level as this age of early heroes draws toward its close. You feel the stirring of even greater stories in the cosmic womb, tales that will require not just individual courage, but the cooperation of many heroes working together toward common goals. The age of great quests approaches, when heroes will learn that the most impossible tasks sometimes require not just single champions, but entire fellowships united in purpose. Sleep deeper now in this gallery of heroic dreams. Each story a lullaby that sings of human potential realized through divine assistance. Mortal courage blessed by immortal wisdom. Ordinary souls learning to carry extraordinary light through a world that grows more beautiful with each act of selfless bravery. Each choice to serve others rather than self. Each step taken toward the distant summit where human and divine meet in perfect harmony. Asterisk, asterisk, dot 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 dot, asterisk, asterisk. You drift deeper into the realm of heroic dreams, carried forward by currents of story that grow stronger and more complex with each generation. The world has learned to nurture heroes now, understanding that greatness requires not just divine spark, but mortal struggle. Not just strength, but the wisdom that comes through testing. Not just power, but the character that makes power serve rather than corrupt. In the ancient city of Thebes, where the walls themselves remember songs of triumph and tragedy, a child is born who will carry within his mortal frame more divine fire than any hero before him. The night of his birth, the stars themselves pause in their eternal dance, as if the cosmos holds its breath too. Witness the arrival of one whose deeds will echo. Through all the ages yet to come, Heracles enters the world not with the gentle emergence of ordinary children, but with the strength already stirring in his tiny fists, the power already gleaming in his infant eyes. Yet for all his divine heritage, for all the thunder that rumbles in his blood, he is also utterly, completely human, capable of doubt and fear, of love and loss, of the full spectrum of mortal emotion that will make his victories meaningful and his sufferings profound. His mother, Alcmene, holds him with the tender awe of one who knows she cradles not just her son but destiny itself, wrapped in swaddling clothes that seem too small to contain the greatness stirring within them. Her love becomes his first teacher, her gentle voice his first guide to the complex navigation between the divine and mortal aspects of his nature. The serpents that Hera sends to test the infant Heracles find not helpless prey but their first lesson in the principle that will guide his entire life. That strength finds its truest expression not in conquest but in protection. Even as a baby, he grasps the snakes, not with cruelty, but with the instinctive understanding that some things must be stopped before they can harm what is innocent and vulnerable. You Watch him grow through childhood like a young tree that draws sustenance from deeper springs than ordinary soil provides. His strength increases with each passing season, but so does his gentleness. As if the same divine fire that makes him capable of moving mountains also makes him sensitive to the smallest suffering, the most delicate need for protection. His education begins early. For a hero of his magnitude requires teachers worthy of his potential. Chiron, the centaur, takes him into the wilderness, where the first lessons happen not in words, but in silence. Not through instruction, but through observation of the way all living things find their place in the great web of existence, in the mountain forests. Heracles learns to read the stories written in animal tracks, to understand the conversations that trees hold with the wind, to feel the pulse of the earth's life flowing through his own veins. His strength grows not just in his muscles, but in his connection to all that lives, all that breathes, all that participates in the cosmic dance of being and becoming. The music teacher who instructs him in the lyre finds his student possessed of unexpected sensitivity. Fingers that can crush stone, learning to draw from strings melodies of heartbreaking beauty. The contrast between his power and his gentleness becomes a theme that will play through all his adventures. The strongest man who ever lived, learning to touch the world with infinite care, but the divine nature that flows in his blood brings with it challenges that ordinary mortals never face. Hera's jealousy follows him like a shadow that grows darker as his light grows brighter. Not from evil, but from the complex emotions that even goddesses must struggle to understand and master. The madness that she sends upon him in his young manhood comes not as simple insanity, but as the temporary eclipse of the soul's light by clouds of confusion too thick for mortal understanding to penetrate. In this darkness, he acts not with his true nature, but as a man possessed, his strength turned against those he loves most deeply. The tragedy that follows becomes the crucible in which his heroic character is forged into its final form, awakening from the divine madness to find his wife and children dead by his own hand. Heracles faces the most terrible test that any soul can face, the necessity of continuing to live and strive for good when everything within him cries out for surrender to despair. The oracle at Delphi receives him not with condemnation, but with the compassion that recognizes suffering too profound for ordinary comfort. Her words, when they come, carry not punishment, but purpose. Not damnation, but the possibility of redemption through service to something greater than his own guilt and grief. King Eurystheus becomes not his master, but the instrument through which the gods offer him the chance to transform his strength from burden into blessing, his power from source of sorrow into foundation for joy. The 12 labors that the king assigns are not merely tasks, but teachings, each one a different lesson in how great strength can serve the cause of universal good. You follow him as he sets forth from Tiryns toward his first labor, his heart heavy with sorrow, but his will firm with resolution. The Nemean lion that terrorizes the countryside represents not just a monster to be slain, but the first test of whether strength, motivated by the desire for redemption, can accomplish what strength driven by mere ambition never could. The journey to Nemea takes him through landscapes that seem to respond to his presence, as if the earth itself recognizes the passing of one whose story will reshape the very meaning of heroism. Villagers that have lived in terror for generations look up to see him walking their roads and dare, for the first time in years, to hope that deliverance might be possible. The lion itself, when he finally tracks it to its mountain lair, emerges not as mindless beast, but as force of nature grown too large for the ecological balance, too powerful for the ordinary checks that keep predator and prey in harmony. Its golden hide, impervious to mortal weapons, reflects not just sunlight, but the divine essence that makes it a worthy opponent. For one who carries thunder in his blood, the battle that follows becomes a dance of strength against strength, power testing power, divine nature meeting divine nature, in contest that will determine not just victory but the proper relationship between force and wisdom. Heracles learns that his bare hands, guided by intelligence rather than mere fury, can accomplish what no forged weapon could. Achieve. The strangling of the lion happens not with brutal violence, but with the implacable patience of one who understands that some victories require not speed but persistence, not cleverness but the willingness to hold on until the task is complete. The great cat's death comes as natural conclusion to a struggle that was as much philosophical as physical. The hide that he takes from the lion becomes more than armor, it becomes symbol of the principle that protection, earned through facing danger directly, is stronger than any protection that can be purchased or inherited. Wearing the Nemean lion's pelt, Heracles carries with him the reminder that courage tested by ordeal creates defenses that no force can penetrate. The second labor leads him to the swamps of Lerna, where the Hydra writhes in the poisonous mist like all the multiplicities of evil that grow, stronger when attacked by conventional means. This creature teaches him that some problems require not just strength, but strategy, not just courage, but the wisdom to recognize when assistance makes victory possible rather than less honorable. Elos becomes more than nephew and companion. He becomes the living proof that heroes work best not in isolation but in partnership with those who understand their mission and share their dedication to the greater good. The teamwork that allows them to cauterize each severed head before it can grow back demonstrates the principle that cooperation multiplies rather than diminishes individual achievement. The hind leads him on a chase that lasts a full year, teaching him patience of a different kind, not the endurance required for single great effort, but the constancy needed for pursuit that never ends, dedication that never wavers, hope that survives every disappointment and renews itself with every dawn. When he finally captures the golden-horned deer, it is not through superior speed or cleverness, but through the deeper understanding that some prizes can only be won by those willing to prove their worthiness through sustained devotion, rather than momentary brilliance. The hind yields to him not as conquered prey, but as gift freely given to one who has demonstrated the constancy of his love. The Erymanthian boar teaches him about the proper relationship between strength and control, showing him that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to restrain destruction, to capture rather than kill, to neutralize rather than annihilate. Bringing the boar back alive requires more skill than simply slaying. It would have demanded. The Augean stables present him with labor that seems to mock the very concept of heroic endeavor, the cleaning of filth so accumulated that no ordinary effort could make even beginning upon the task seem worthwhile. Yet this labor teaches perhaps the most important lesson of all, that no work is beneath the dignity of one who serves the greater good. No task too humble for hands that are willing to serve. The diversion of the rivers Alpheus and Peneus through the stables demonstrates the heroic principle that impossible problems sometimes yield to solutions that transform the entire framework within which the problem exists. By changing the rules rather than simply applying greater effort within existing limitations, Heracles learns to think like the gods themselves. The birds that darken the sky like clouds of bronze and iron teach him about the necessity of sometimes fighting enemies that attack, not singly but in overwhelming numbers. The bronze castanets that Athena provides create noise that drives them from their hidden marshes, showing him that divine assistance often comes not as direct intervention but as tools that make mortal effort more effective. His arrows, dipped in the Hydra's poison, find their marks not through mere skill but through the understanding that weapons consecrated by previous victories carry power beyond their material substance. Each bird that falls represents not just one less threat, but one step closer to the mastery of his own powers. The Cretan bull carries him across the sea to foreign lands, expanding his understanding of heroism beyond the boundaries of his homeland. The capture of this magnificent beast, father of the monster that will one day challenge Theseus, teaches him that some labors serve not just immediate purposes, but plant seeds for future stories, future heroes, future victories. The mares of Diomedes feed on human flesh, not from natural appetite, but from corruption of their essential nature by masters who have forgotten the proper relationship between power and responsibility. Heracles' victory over them becomes lesson in restoration as much as conquest, the healing of creatures whose nature has been twisted by exposure to evil. His feeding of King Diomedes to his own horses creates justice that mirrors the crime. But the aftermath, the gentling of the mares, once there, unnatural hunger is satisfied, demonstrates the heroic truth that punishment should always serve restoration rather than mere retribution. The girdle of Hippolyta leads him to the land of the Amazons, where he encounters warriors who match his own dedication to excellence in combat. The Amazon queen gives him her girdle not as prize won through battle, but as gift offered between equals, recognition of worth that transcends gender and culture. The misunderstanding that leads to conflict happens not through malice, but through the tragic breakdown of communication that can turn potential friends into enemies. The battle that follows teaches Heracles that some of his greatest regrets will come not from failing to defeat enemies, but from being forced into conflict with those who might have been allies. The cattle of Geryon require him to travel to the very edge of the world, to the pillars that mark the boundary between known and unknown, mortal and divine, possible and impossible. The three-bodied giant who guards the herd represents the multiplicity of obstacles that heroes must overcome, not just external enemies, but internal divisions, not just physical challenges, but spiritual tests. The journey home with the cattle becomes Odyssey, through landscapes both geographical and psychological, each stage of the return teaching him new lessons about persistence, responsibility, and the weight that comes with possessing something others desperately need. The apples of the Hesperides send him beyond the edge of the world itself, to the garden where day meets night, where mortal effort touches immortal reward. Atlas becomes not just obstacle, but teacher, showing him that the heaviest burdens can be borne when they are accepted as service, rather than resented as unfair impositions. The trick by which he convinces Atlas to retrieve the apples himself demonstrates not cleverness but wisdom, the understanding that sometimes the greatest victories come not through direct confrontation, but through helping others accomplish what they did not know they could achieve. The final labor leads him down to Hades itself, to the realm where all stories end, where all heroes eventually must journey. Cerberus, the three-headed guardian of the underworld, represents not just final test, but final teaching, that death itself need not be enemy, but can be faced with the same courage that meets all other challenges. His wrestling match with the great hound happens not in the upper world, where his strength has been tested against mortal opponents, but in the realm where strength alone is insufficient, where victory requires understanding of mysteries deeper than muscle, more subtle than strategy. The permission that Hades grants him to take Cerberus to the upper world comes not from defeat, but from recognition, the acknowledgement that Heracles has earned the right to move freely between all realms, to carry his light into even the deepest darkness without being extinguished by what he finds there. The completion of the 12 labors marks not end but transformation, the metamorphosis of a man driven by guilt into a hero motivated by love, of strength seeking redemption into power dedicated to service. Heracles emerges from his years of labor not as one who has paid his debt, but as one who has discovered his true calling. The adventures that follow flow not from external compulsion, but from internal conviction. The understanding that heroism is not destination, but journey, not achievement, but way of being in the world. Each new challenge becomes opportunity rather than burden. Each call for help becomes invitation to express the fullness of what he has learned about the proper use of strength. You watch him move through the later years of his story like a force of nature that has learned to be gentle, like a storm that has discovered how to water gardens rather than destroy them. His presence in the world becomes blessing rather than burden, his strength gift rather than curse. The mortal end of his story approaches not as defeat but as graduation, the transition from earthly hero to eternal symbol. The pyre on Mount Ota burns not with the fire of destruction but with the flame of transformation, the same sacred fire that Prometheus stole from heaven, now carrying Heracles himself up to take his place among the stars. His transformation from mortal hero to immortal god completes the circle that began with his divine heritage and mortal birth. The man who learned to use the strength of gods in service of mortal needs becomes the god who remembers what it means to be human, to struggle, to fail, to rise again stronger and wiser than before. As his story fades into the eternal golden light of divine reward, you feel yourself filled not with the excitement of adventure, but with the deep peace that comes from witnessing strength wedded to wisdom, power married to love, divinity expressed through the patient service of all that lives and breathes and hopes for protection. Sleep deeper now, cradled by the strength that protects rather than dominates, warmed by the fire that kindles light rather than consuming what it touches, held by the understanding that true heroism lies not in being stronger than others, but in using whatever strength you possess in service of the greater good that connects all souls in one cosmic family of love. You drift forward on currents of story that grow ever more complex, ever more interwoven, like streams converging into a great river that carries all heroic dreams toward the sea of eternal myth. The age of individual heroes begins to transform into something richer, more collaborative, the time when greatness learns that its highest expression comes not through solitary achievement, but through the harmony of many gifts working together toward common purpose in the ancient city of Olympus, where the harbor dreams of distant shores and the wind carries whispers of adventures not yet attempted. A young man grows to manhood, carrying in his heart the weight of righteous claim denied. Jason moves through his exile years like a prince learning patience. His nobility evident not in crown or scepter, but in the quiet dignity with which he bears injustice. The gentle confidence that speaks of destiny delayed but not denied. His uncle Peleus holds the throne that should by right belong to Jason's father. But kingship built on usurpation creates its own anxieties, its own fears of the justice that waits in the wings like an actor preparing to take the stage. The oracle's warning echoes in the usurper's dreams. Beware the man with one sandal, for he carries your doom upon his foot. The prophecy fulfills itself with the beautiful inevitability of all true omens. Not through dramatic confrontation, but through the simple generosity of a heart that cannot pass by suffering without offering aid. At the river crossing where the waters run swift and treacherous, Jason encounters the old woman struggling against the current, her weakness appealing to the strength that flows not from muscle but from character. He carries her across without question, without calculation of reward, his single lost sandal a small price to pay for the satisfaction of service freely given. Only when they reach the far shore does she reveal herself as Hera in disguise, the goddess who will become his patron not because he worshipped her with incense and gold, but because he served her with willing hands and generous heart. The return to Iolcus happens like sunrise after long night, inevitable and beautiful. The restoration of natural order that darkness can delay but never permanently prevent. Jason walks through the city gates with the confidence of one who knows his place in the cosmic plan, one sandal marking him as the fulfillment of prophecy, both shoes marking him as one who puts the needs of others before his own comfort. Peleus receives him not with the terror the oracle might have suggested, but with the crafty calculation of one who has spent years planning for this moment. The impossible task he sets to retrieve the golden fleece from the distant land of Colchis seems like exile disguised as quest. Death sentence wrapped in the language of heroic opportunity, but impossibility, in the hands of one blessed by divine favor, becomes invitation to transcend the ordinary limits of what single souls can achieve. Jason accepts the challenge not with the boastful confidence of one who believes himself capable of any feat, but with the quiet certainty of one who understands that great tasks require great companions, that the highest adventures demand not just heroic leader, but heroic fellowship. The call goes forth across the Greek world like seeds scattered by generous hands, finding fertile ground in hearts that hunger for something greater than the comfortable limitations of ordinary life. Heroes gather to the banner of the Argo not as followers but as equals, each bringing unique gifts to the collective endeavor that no single individual could hope to master alone. You watch them assemble, like stars forming constellation, each light distinct yet part of a larger pattern that tells story across the heavens. Heracles comes, still glowing with the satisfaction of labors completed, his strength now seasoned with wisdom, his power transformed into protection for those who sail under weaker stars. Orpheus arrives with his lyre, singing songs that make even the stones lean forward to listen, his music carrying the power to calm stormy seas, to charm monsters into gentleness, to call forth from nature itself the cooperation that heroes need when they venture beyond the boundaries of the familiar world. The Dioscuri, Castor and Pollux, bring the divine favor that flows through twin souls who have learned to work in perfect harmony. Their brotherhood, a living symbol of the unity that must bind all Argonauts if their ship is to find safe passage through the perils that guard them. Fleeced Atalanta joins them as proof that heroism recognizes no boundary of gender, her presence blessing the expedition with the fierce grace of one who has learned to run with the wind, to hunt with the patience of growing things, to fight with the deadly beauty of natural forces defending what they love. The ship itself becomes more than mere vessel. It is the Argo, built from timber cut from the sacred grove of Dodon, its very planks singing with the voice of prophecy, its prow carved with the wisdom of Athena herself. This is no ordinary craft, but a living participant in the adventure, a wooden soul that dreams of distant waters and the glory that awaits those brave enough to sail beyond the edge of the known world. The launch happens at dawn, as all great journeys should, the sun painting the waters gold as if the very sea approves of their mission. The Argonauts take their places at the rowing benches, not as men conscripted for labor, but as willing participants in a dance, each stroke of their oars adding to the rhythm that will carry them across the wind-dark waters toward whatever destiny waits in the lands where dragons guard their golden treasure. You sail with them across seas that grow stranger, the farther they travel from familiar shores, waters that reflect not just sky but possibility, waves that whisper of adventures that wait like unopened books in the libraries of the gods. The Mediterranean becomes highway to wonder, each island a different chapter in the epic of their journey toward the edge of the world. The encounter with the Lemnian women teaches them the first lesson of their voyage, that heroism sometimes requires not fighting but healing, not conquest but restoration. The island where only women remain, abandoned by husbands who sailed away in pursuit of war rather than staying home to tend the gardens of love, becomes school for the understanding that strength, without gentleness, defeats itself. The Argonauts bring not just their physical presence, but their willingness to serve, to help rebuild what violence and pride have torn down, to demonstrate through action that true heroism creates rather than destroys, heals rather than wounds, builds bridges rather than burning them. Their departure from Lemnos carries with it the blessings of women who have remembered what it means to hope again, what it feels like to see their work valued, their wisdom respected, their love answered with devotion rather than abandonment. The ship sails away heavier, not with gold, but with the treasure of gratitude freely given. The loss of Heracles happens not through betrayal or conflict, but through the divine understanding that some souls have their own destinies to fulfill, paths that diverge from even the greatest collective undertakings. When Hylas disappears into the embrace of water nymphs who recognize his beauty and claim him for their own, Heracles must choose between the quest and the search for his beloved companion. His decision to stay behind and seek the lost youth teaches the Argonauts that love sometimes requires sacrifice of even the greatest adventures, that loyalty to individuals can take precedence over loyalty to causes, that the heart's imperatives sometimes override even the noblest collective purposes. The passage through the clashing rocks that guard the entrance to the Black Sea becomes test of whether mortal courage, enhanced by divine favor, can navigate the impossible. Passages that separate the known from the unknown, the safe from the transformative, the dove that flies ahead of them, losing only its tail feathers to the crushing stones, becomes prophet of possibility. If even a small bird can find passage through timing and courage, then a ship full of heroes guided by wisdom might achieve what seems impossible to ordinary navigation. The moment when the Argo shoots through the gap, the rocks closing behind them with finality that makes return impossible and forward motion the only choice. marks their true entry into the realm of myth, the territory where ordinary rules no longer apply, and heroic hearts must find new ways to read the compass of conscience. Asterisk, asterisk. The arrival in Colchis happens like dawn breaking over unknown country. Beautiful and strange and full of possibilities, both wonderful and dangerous. King Aeetes receives them not with the hospitality due to guests, but with the suspicion of one who guards treasure so precious that its loss would diminish not just wealth, but the very foundations of royal power. The tasks he sets seem designed not to test heroism, but to destroy it, to plow the field with fire-breathing bulls, to sow the dragon's teeth that will sprout into armed warriors, to take the fleece from the sleepless guardian that coils around the sacred oak like living contradiction of every hero's. Hope's dark but divine favor works through unexpected channels, love flowing like water that finds cracks in the stonest heart. Medea looks upon Jason with eyes that recognize not just his physical beauty, but the inner light that marks souls chosen for great deeds, difficult choices, destinies that will reshape the world through their willingness to attempt what others declare impossible. Her love transforms her from enemy to ally, from guardian of her father's interests to champion of the greater good that heroes serve. The magic she offers Jason comes not as betrayal of her heritage, but as recognition that some treasures are meant to flow from one worthy guardian to another, that hoarding wisdom ultimately serves no one. The plowing with the bronze bulls happens like agricultural ballet performed by dancer and partners who breathe fire instead of sweet air. Jason's victory comes not through overpowering the beasts, but through understanding them, through the empathy that allows him to work with rather than against their essential nature. The sowing of the dragon's teeth and the harvest of armed warriors that spring from the furrows teaches him the final lesson he needs before facing the guardian of the fleece, that some enemies can be defeated not by superior force, but by superior strategy. That wisdom sometimes achieves what strength alone never could, by throwing the stone that sets the earthborn warriors fighting among themselves. Jason demonstrates the heroic principle that the best victories often come through helping enemies defeat themselves, through understanding the weaknesses that lie hidden within apparent strengths. That approach to the sacred grove happens in the deep of night, when ordinary courage might falter, but heroic determination burns brightest. The dragon that coils around the oak tree emerges not as mindless monster, but as test of everything Jason has learned about the proper relationship between desire and wisdom, want and need, individual ambition and universal service. Medea's potion flows over the great serpent like sleep itself. But this is not mere magical compulsion, but the deeper enchantment of one consciousness recognizing another. Predator acknowledging the worthiness of those it has been set to guard. The dragon's slumber comes as gift rather than conquest. The taking of the golden fleece happens with reverence rather than triumph. Jason understanding that he holds not trophy but responsibility, not prize but trust. The fleece itself seems to glow not with mere metallic radiance, but with the light of achieved purpose, successful quest, heroic fellowship proven worthy of its mythic goal. The escape from Colchis requires not just speed, but wisdom. The understanding that true victory must serve justice rather than mere self. Medea's presence on the ship transforms the Argonauts from raiders into rescuers, from thieves into champions of love that transcends the boundaries of tribe and nation. The journey home becomes odyssey through waters both geographical and psychological, each challenge teaching new lessons about the complexity of heroic life. The difficulty of maintaining noble purpose when survival itself hangs in the balance. The passage through the wandering rocks. The encounter with the sirens whose songs promise knowledge but deliver death. The navigation of straits where monsters wait on either side. Each test proves the strength that comes from unity. From heroes who have learned to work together as single organism dedicated to common survival and mutual protection. Orpheus's lyre becomes their compass through the territory of the impossible. His music creating harmony that allows them to resist the discord that would tear them apart. The chaos that would scatter their purpose like leaves before an autumn storm. The final approach to Iolcus carries with it the satisfaction of impossible achievement, of fellowship proven worthy of divine favor, of individual heroes transformed through collective effort into something greater than the sum of their separate greatness. But victory brings its own complications, its own moral ambiguities that heroes must navigate with the same courage they brought to dragons and clashing rocks. Peleus has not spent the intervening years learning wisdom but growing more entrenched in the injustice that heroes are sworn to oppose. Medea's solution to the problem of the unrepentant usurper demonstrates that heroic stories sometimes require difficult choices, that justice delayed sometimes demands methods that test the very principles heroes live to serve. Her magic transforms what should have been restoration into tragedy, victory into the beginning of new sorrows. The dissolution of the Argonauts happens not through failure but through success. The understanding that fellowship forged in quest must sometimes scatter when the quest is complete. Heroes returning to their individual destinies enriched by their shared adventure but called to serve different purposes in the grand design. Jason and Medea's marriage begins with promise but carries within it the seeds of future sorrow. The tragedy that comes when love born in extraordinary circumstances must learn to survive in the ordinary world. When passion kindled by shared danger must find new fuel in the mundane challenges of daily life. Yet their story, like that of all the Argonauts, becomes part of the great treasury of human inspiration, proof that individual limitations can be transcended through willing cooperation. That impossible dreams become possible when enough hearts commit themselves to shared purpose. The golden fleece itself, now hanging in the temple where it catches and reflects the prayers of generations yet to come, serves as eternal reminder that the greatest treasures are not gold or jewels, but the experiences that transform souls. The adventures that prove mortal hearts capable of divine achievements. You drift away from their story like wind leaving sails that have carried their cargo safely to port, understanding that you have witnessed not just adventure but education, not just quest but transformation of heroism from individual excellence into collective wisdom, from personal achievement into shared triumph that multiplies rather than divides the glory. Sleep deeper now, cradled by the rhythm of oars that carry dreams across impossible waters, warmed by the fellowship that makes any journey bearable, any destination achievable, any treasure worth the seeking when it serves not selfish purpose but the greater good that connects all souls in one cosmic crew sailing toward shores of eternal peace and understanding. Asterisk. You drift deeper into the realm where stories grow too large for single heroes to contain, where individual destinies weave together into tapestries so complex that gods themselves must pause to admire the patterns emerging from the loom of fate. The age of great quests gives way to something more profound, more tragic, more beautiful, the time when an entire civilization learns what it means to choose honor over safety, glory over life, eternal song over temporary peace. In the golden halls of Sparta, where beauty dwells like sunlight made manifest in mortal form, Helen moves through her days like a living poem that gods have written in flesh and breath and gentle laughter. Her presence transforms everything around her, not through effort but through simple being. The way flowers transform gardens merely by agreeing to bloom where they are planted. Yet beauty of such magnitude carries within itself the seeds of great upheaval. Not because beauty is dangerous, but because the hearts that behold it are moved to actions both noble and terrible, inspired and destructive, heroic and tragic. The face that will launch 1,000 ships wears no expression of malice, feels no hunger for the chaos that will follow in its wake. Paris arrives in Sparta like a shepherd who has wandered far from his familiar hills, carrying in his heart the golden promise that Aphrodite whispered in his dreams, the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, as reward for his wisdom in choosing beauty over power, desire over dominion. His choice at the divine beauty contest echoes still in the corridors of destiny, rippling forward through time like stones thrown into still water. The love that blooms between Helen and Paris unfolds like spring after endless winter, natural and irresistible as sunrise, tender as the first flower that dares to trust the warmth of returning light. Their hearts recognize each other not as strangers meeting, but as souls remembering what they have always known, what they were shaped to seek before they learned to speak. Yet love that ignores the bonds already forged creates sorrows that spread like circles on a pond, touching shores far distant from the place where the first stone fell. Menelaus, the abandoned husband, feels the wound not just of personal betrayal but of cosmic imbalance, the violation of sacred oaths that bind not just individuals but entire peoples in webs of honor and obligation. The call to arms that echoes across Greece carries with it the weight of all previous oaths, all sworn brotherhood, all promises made in wine and witnessed by gods who do not forget what mortals would prefer to overlook. The gathering of the Greek fleet becomes not just military expedition but sacred undertaking, the fulfillment of bonds that tie individual honor to collective purpose. Agamemnon takes command not through superior virtue, but through the accident of power. The harsh reality that leadership in times of crisis often falls not to the most worthy, but to the most positioned, the most willing to bear the weight of decisions that will echo through generations yet unborn. You watch the ships gather at Aulis like great birds, settling on water that reflects their sails like wings. Each vessel carrying not just warriors but dreams of glory, fears of death, hopes for return to wives and children who wave farewell from shores that some will never see again. Asterisk, asterisk. The wind that will not blow becomes test of how much the assembled kings are willing to sacrifice for their collective oath. When the sacrifice demanded is Agamemnon's own daughter, the sweet Iphigenia, who trusted her father's love more than she feared the altar's blade. The expedition learns its first lesson in the terrible arithmetic of war. The girl's death transforms what began as adventure into tragedy. What started as rescue into revenge, what hoped to be restoration into the beginning of sorrows that will flow like blood from an unhealing wound. The wind that finally fills their sails carries not just ships, but the curse that follows innocent blood, spilled for guilty purposes. The crossing to Troy happens over waters that grow darker with each league traveled, as if the sea itself mourns for what is coming, what cannot now be stopped. What has been set in motion by choices that seemed reasonable when they were made but revealed their true cost only in retrospect. Troy rises from the coastal plain like a stone prayer offered to heaven. Its walls built not just of masonry but of the dreams of generations who found in this one place their perfect home, their sanctuary, their vision of what civilization can achieve when it serves beauty rather than mere power. King Priam rules not as tyrant, but as father of his people, his white beard flowing like wisdom made visible, his gentle authority resting not on fear, but on the love that his subjects bear for one whose reign has brought them prosperity, peace, and the quiet satisfaction of lives lived in harmony with divine will. Hector walks the ramparts like guardian angel made flesh, his presence on the walls more protective than all the bronze and stone, his courage flowing through the city like underground springs that nourish gardens in times of drought. He fights not for glory, but for the simple right of his people to live without fear, to raise their children in peace, to preserve the culture they have spent centuries learning to perfect. The siege that follows stretches across years, like a sorrow too deep for quick healing. Both armies settling into the strange routine of organized warfare. Heroes on both sides, learning the bitter lesson that glory extracted at spear point tastes different than the glory that flows from noble hearts. Serving noble purposes, Achilles arrives like summer lightning. Beautiful and terrible, his wrath potential energy that waits for the right moment to transform into kinetic fury that will reshape the very landscape of heroism. His tent becomes shrine to the principle that individual excellence can transcend the mundane necessities of collective enterprise, that some souls burn too brightly to be contained by ordinary expectations of duty and obedience. The quarrel between him and Agamemnon over Bruces transforms personal slight into cosmic crisis, proving that when heroes withdraw their gifts from common cause, the entire enterprise suffers. Warriors and leaders alike learning that no individual excellence, however magnificent, can substitute for the harmony that binds separate strengths into single purpose. You watch Achilles sitting by his ships like a god in exile, his armor hanging unused while lesser heroes die for lack of the protection his presence would provide. His choice to withdraw from battle demonstrates the terrible truth that great gifts carry great responsibilities, that those who possess the power to save also possess the power to destroy through withholding what others desperately need. Patroclus moves through the Greek camp like gentleness made visible, his friendship with the greatest warrior teaching all who observe them that even the fiercest hearts require tenderness. Even the strongest souls need the companionship of those who love them not for their achievements but for their essential being. His decision to wear Achilles' armor and enter battle happens not from ambition but from compassion, the inability to watch suffering he has the power to alleviate, the heroic choice to risk personal safety for the sake of others' survival. The armor transforms him not into Achilles but into the best version of himself. Courage activated by love rather than pride. The death of Patroclus beneath Hector's spear comes not through superior skill, but through the terrible moment when even the gentlest soul overreaches, when love drives courage beyond the boundaries of wisdom, when the desire to save others leads to the one outcome that cannot be undone or forgiven, the grief that transforms. Achilles happens like earthquake in the soul, reshaping the entire landscape of his being from the foundation upward. The hero who withdrew from battle out of wounded pride returns to war driven by wounded love. His fury no longer personal grievance, but cosmic force, seeking to balance the scales that death has tilted toward unbearable asymmetry. The armor that his divine mother brings him glows, not just with Hephaestus's craftsmanship, but with the terrible beauty of perfect tools made for imperfect purpose. Protection forged for one whose heart no longer seeks to preserve life, but to end it. To balance death with death, loss with loss, grief with the only payment that seems adequate to cover such devastating debt. The return of Achilles to battle transforms the war from siege into storm. His presence on the field, like wind that bends all other forces to its will, redirects all other currents toward the single purpose that burns in his heart like altar fire that consumes everything offered to its flames. The duel between Achilles and Hector happens not in the space of mere battlefield, but in the realm where individual choice intersects with cosmic necessity, where personal honor meets universal law, where the love that drives both warriors toward their destined meeting becomes the force that will destroy one and transform the other. Hector runs not from cowardice, but from the terrible clarity that shows him the future. The understanding that this battle will end not just his life, but his city's hope, his family's protection, his people's dream of living in peace behind walls that have kept them safe through all the years of their prosperity. Yet, the moment comes when running becomes impossible, when honor demands that the protector turn to face what he cannot defeat, when love of city and family requires the sacrifice of the very life that gives that love meaning. Hector's choice to stand and fight teaches the profoundest lesson about heroism, that sometimes the greatest courage lies in accepting defeat for the sake of principles that transcend personal survival. The spear that finds its mark in Hector's throat carries with it not just bronze point, but the accumulated weight of all the griefs that have brought these heroes to this moment, all the loves that have been violated, all the hopes that have been murdered, all the innocence that has been sacrificed on the altar of human pride and divine indifference. His death creates silence that spreads like ripples across the battlefield. Greeks and Trojans alike recognizing that something irreplaceable has been lost. Some balance has been forever destroyed. Some line has been crossed that separates honorable warfare from the mere mechanics of destruction. The desecration of Hector's body happens not through conscious cruelty, but through the madness that grief creates when it grows too large for mortal hearts to contain. Achilles drags the corpse behind his chariot, not to cause suffering, but to express suffering, to make visible in the external world the devastation that loss has carved in the landscape of his soul. Yet, even grief must eventually exhaust itself. Even fury must burn through the fuel that feeds it, and discover what remains when anger no longer has the strength to sustain itself. The visit of old Priam to Achilles' tent happens like dawn breaking over battlefield, illuminating not just the carnage, but the humanity that survives beneath the armor of wrath. The old king's courage in coming alone to face his son's killer demonstrates the strength that flows not from muscle or weapon, but from love so deep it transforms fear into determination, terror into the willingness to risk everything for the chance to bring beloved bones home for proper burial. The moment when Achilles sees in Priam's face the reflection of his own father, when shared grief becomes bridge between enemy hearts, when the killer and the bereaved discover their common humanity beneath the roles that war has forced them to play. This moment redeems all the darkness that has gone before, proves that even in the depths of tragedy, love can find ways to flow. The ransom accepted is not gold, but recognition. Not treasure, but the acknowledgement that some debts can only be paid through mercy. Some victories can only be won through surrender. Some strength can only be expressed through the willingness to show weakness. Asterisk, asterisk. The funeral of Hector becomes not just Trojan mourning, but universal lamentation. The grief that flows when any great soul passes from the world into memory. When any protector lays down arms that will never again shield the innocent from harm. The games held in his honor transform competition into worship, athletic prowess into prayer offered for the soul that served as bridge between mortal courage and divine protection. Each race run, each contest won becomes small offering to the principle that Hector embodied strength that serves rather than dominates, power that protects rather than conquers. But the war itself cannot end with single death. However noble, however tragic, however transformative, the siege continues like machinery too massive to be stopped by individual choice, too complex to be redirected by personal epiphany, too invested in its own momentum to pause for reflection or regret. The death of Achilles comes not through superior enemy but through divine intervention. The arrow guided by Apollo's hand, finding the one vulnerable spot in the greatest warrior's body. His heel, unprotected by divine armor, becomes symbol of how even the mightiest heroes carry within themselves the seeds of their own limitation, their own eventual return to the common clay from which all mortals spring. The funeral pyre that consumes his body burns like star falling to earth, its light visible from both camps, its smoke carrying prayers and curses alike up to the gods who watch their favorites pass from the stage where they have played their appointed parts in the drama that shapes the destiny of nations. The armor that Ajax and Odysseus compete for becomes test not just of worthiness but of wisdom, the divine judgment that recognizes in Odysseus the combination of courage and intelligence that will be needed for the war's final phase. The transition from battle to strategy, from force to cunning, from the heroics of individual combat to the patient work of collective problem solving. The wooden horse emerges not as mere military stratagem, but as symbol of transformation. The understanding that some problems require not greater force but different approach, not more heroes but different kinds of heroism, not louder war cries but deeper wisdom. The construction happens under Athena's guidance, her wisdom flowing through mortal hands to create not just weapon but work of art, not just trick but transformation of the very nature of warfare itself. The horse becomes proof that intelligence, guided by divine favor, can achieve what strength alone could never accomplish. The night when Troy finally falls happens not with the thunder of conventional battle, but with the whisper of sandaled feet on stone floors, the soft sound of doors opening to admit what walls could not keep out, the gentle sigh of a city breathing its last before transforming from living place into eternal symbol. The sack of Troy unfolds not as celebration but as tragedy, victory revealing its true cost in the faces of the conquered. The understanding that triumph purchased at such price tastes bitter on the tongue, leaves ashes in the mouth, shadows in the heart that no amount of glory can illuminate. Yet from this ending flows new beginning, the understanding that some stories must conclude in order for other stories to commence, that some cycles must complete themselves before new cycles can begin. The fall of Troy becomes not just ending but commencement, not just destruction but the clearing of ground where new civilizations will learn to grow. You drift away from the smoking ruins like wind carrying seeds to fertile ground, understanding that you have witnessed not just war but transformation, not just destruction but the painful birth of new forms of heroism. new ways of understanding what it means to be human in a world where gods and mortals dance together in patterns too complex for any single soul to comprehend completely. Sleep deeper now, cradled by the songs that will preserve these stories long after the last stone of Troy's walls has crumbled to dust. Warmed by the understanding that even the greatest tragedies serve purposes larger than their immediate sorrow. Comforted by the knowledge that from endings always come beginnings. From conclusions always flow new stories waiting to be born. Asterisk, asterisk, dot, 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 asterisk, asterisk. You drift now into the final movement of this ancient symphony, carried on currents of story that flow like the wind-dark sea itself, toward shores both distant and familiar, toward the understanding that all journeys, however far they wander, ultimately lead back to the place where they began, but transformed, deepened, made wise by all the wonders and terrors encountered along the way. The ships that sail away from Troy's smoking ruins carry within their holds more than mere treasure plundered from a fallen city. They bear the weight of memory, the burden of experience, the complex cargo of souls who have learned that victory and defeat are often indistinguishable, that glory and grief flow from the same fountains, that the greatest adventures exact prices that can only be measured in the silence that follows the last song. Among all the heroes returning to their various homes scattered across the wind-dark sea, one voyage stands apart like a thread of gold woven through common cloth. A story that will teach all future wanderers what it means to be human in a universe both vast and intimate, both hospitable and hostile, to the dreams that drive mortals forward through the darkness toward whatever lights they choose to follow. Odysseus begins his journey home to Ithaca, like a man who believes distance can be measured in leagues, time in days, obstacles in terms that ordinary courage and familiar strategy can overcome. His ships cut through the waves with the confidence of one who has solved the riddle of Troy, who has proven that intelligence wedded to divine favor can conquer any fortress, outwit any enemy, bring low any pride that sets itself against the patient working of justice. Yet, the sea that bears him has its own lessons to teach, its own curriculum of wisdom that cannot be learned in the comfortable classrooms of familiar harbor or predictable battlefield. Each island that rises from the blue distances becomes a different school where the soul learns new subjects: humility, patience, the complex navigation between desire and duty, between the longings that pull forward and the loves that anchor backward. You sail with him into waters that grow stranger with each day's passage, following currents that flow not just across physical geography but through the hidden landscapes of the spirit, where every choice becomes moral test, every encounter becomes opportunity for the soul to reveal what it truly values beneath the surface of its conscious intentions. The island of the Lotus Eaters emerges from morning mist like a dream of perfect peace, its shores offering rest to warriors weary of the endless tension between what is and what ought to be. The fruit that grows there tastes not of mere sweetness, but of forgetfulness, the divine amnesia that would free the heart from all the burdens it carries, all the obligations that transform freedom into responsibility. Some of his men taste that perfect peace and choose to remain, understanding instinctively that the highest happiness might lie not in the completion of difficult journeys, but in the surrender of the need to journey at all. Their choice teaches Odysseus the first lesson of his wandering, that not all who seem to be lost have actually wandered from their proper path. Yet duty calls stronger than desire, the image of Penelope's face more compelling than any earthly paradise. the love that binds him to home more powerful than the peace that promises release from all binding. He carries his men back to the ships, not as conqueror, but as reminder, showing them through his own choice what they have temporarily forgotten about the sweetness of earned rest versus the emptiness of rest that comes to Isolde, the encounter with Polyphemus, the Cyclops who sees with one eye but understands with none, becomes test of whether cleverness can substitute for wisdom, whether victory achieved through deception carries the same weight as triumph won through honest contest. The escape from the cave happens through intelligence rather than strength. But the price paid for that victory will echo across all the years that follow. The name that Odysseus shouts back across the waters, his real name, offered like a gift to the giant's rage, demonstrates the fatal flaw that will transform brief triumph into prolonged suffering. Pride in achievement becomes the wind that blows his ships away from the direct path home, into the labyrinth of consequences that must be navigated by those who value reputation more than prudence. Poseidon's anger, awakened by his son's suffering, transforms the sea from highway into obstacle course. Each wave a reminder that the gods demand not just respect, but the kind of deep humility that recognizes divine power as qualitatively different from mortal cleverness, worthy of awe rather than mere tactical consideration. The bag of winds that Aeolus gives him becomes symbol of how close success can bring a soul to the very thing it seeks, how the nearness of home can make vigilance seem unnecessary, trust seem foolish, the sharing of burdens seem like the hoarding of treasure. When his exhausted crew opens the bag in sight of Ithaca's shores, they learn that some gifts can only be preserved through faith. Some treasures can only be kept through the willingness to remain awake when sleep seems most deserved. Asterisk, asterisk. The return to Aeolus's island teaches the hard lesson that some mistakes cannot be unmade. Some opportunities cannot be reclaimed. Some divine favors cannot be earned twice through the same means. The Windlord's refusal to help again comes not from cruelty, but from the understanding that wisdom must sometimes be purchased with suffering. That shortcuts avoided teach more valuable lessons than shortcuts taken. The encounter with the Lastrygonians transforms confidence into terror, showing Odysseus that the world contains forms of hostility so basic, so overwhelming, that no amount of cleverness can negotiate safe passage through them. The loss of all his ships but one teaches him the arithmetic of survival, that sometimes preservation requires the willingness to sacrifice almost everything for the sake of the essential core that must continue. Asterisk, asterisk. Circe's island rises from the wind-dark waters like the promise of both transformation and trap, the beautiful sorceress offering pleasures that carry within them the seeds of spiritual death. Her magic transforms men into beasts, not through external spell, but through the revelation of what they have always been beneath the surface of civilized pretense. The herb that Hermes provides protects not just against Circe's potions, but against the deeper enchantment of believing that pleasure without purpose, comfort without challenge, satisfaction without service can ever truly satisfy the hunger that drives heroes forward through all obstacles, toward whatever home waits beyond the horizon. The year spent in Circe halls becomes education in the complex relationship between rest and stagnation, between the pauses that prepare souls for continued journey and the stops that tempt travelers to abandon journey altogether. Odysseus learns to enjoy the goddess's gifts without being owned by them, to accept her wisdom without surrendering his will. The descent to Hades happens not as adventure but as pilgrimage, the necessary journey to the place where all stories end in order to understand how this particular story must continue. The dead who gather around the blood-filled pit teach him that memory is the bridge between past and future, that the counsel of those who have completed their journeys can guide those still wandering toward their proper destinations. His mother's shade speaks to him of the love that endures beyond death, the bonds that survive even the final separation, the way that absence can sometimes express presence more powerfully than any physical embrace ever could. Her tears, which cannot fall in the realm of shadows, become rain in his own eyes, washing away some of the dust that accumulates on souls that have wandered too long in foreign lands. Achilles' ghost teaches him the inverse lesson, that glory purchased with life tastes bitter on the tongue of one who has learned too late, that the meanest existence among the living surpasses the most honored position among the dead. The greatest warrior of Troy would trade all his fame for single breaths of ordinary air, single moment of unremarkable sunlight, warming mortal skin. The prophecy that Tiresias speaks carries both warning and promise. The path home exists, but it runs through territories that will test not just courage, but character, not just determination, but wisdom, not just the will to survive, but the deeper question of what survival means if it comes at the cost of everything that makes survival worthwhile. The return to Circe for final counsel transforms their relationship from enchantress and victim to teacher and student, her advice flowing not from desire to control, but from recognition of worthiness, the acknowledgement that some souls have earned the right to knowledge that could destroy lesser travelers, but will guide true heroes safely through the perils that guard the gates of home. The encounter with the sirens becomes test of whether wisdom can be stronger than desire, whether the longing for forbidden knowledge can be satisfied through safe means rather than fatal surrender. The wax in his men's ears, the ropes that bind him to the mast, while his heart breaks with wanting, these become symbols of how the deepest pleasures sometimes require the strictest disciplines. Their song promises not just knowledge, but the perfect understanding that would make all further seeking unnecessary, all continued journey redundant, all human limitation transcended through the simple act of surrender to voices that have sung since time began. Yet Odysseus chooses to hear without yielding, to experience without being consumed, to learn without paying the ultimate price. Thus such learning traditionally demands. The passage between Scylla and Charybdis forces the choice that defines all heroic leadership, which losses to accept in order to preserve what can be saved, which sacrifices to demand from others in service of the greater good that includes but transcends individual survival. The 6 men who feed Scylla's hunger die not as victims but as payment for the passage of the many, their sacrifice teaching the terrible lesson that leadership sometimes requires the willingness to choose which lives to spend in purchase of which other lives, which individual goods to surrender in service of which collective purposes. The island of the sun god presents the final test of whether hunger of the body can overcome wisdom of the spirit, whether immediate necessity can justify the violation of ultimate taboos, whether the fear of dying can drive souls to choices that make death preferable to the consequences of continued living. His men's slaughter of the sacred cattle happens not through evil intention, but through the weakness that affects all mortals when suffering continues beyond the limits of ordinary endurance. Their death in the storm that follows becomes not punishment but completion, The final demonstration that some lines cannot be crossed without fundamental transformation of the crossing. Sole Odysseus alone survives, clinging to the wreckage of his ship like the final note of a song that refuses to end, the last word of a story that insists on its own completion despite all the forces that would bring it to premature conclusion. His 9 days adrift become gestation period, the dark water womb from which he will emerge, reborn into the final phase of his journey, toward whatever home awaits. Calypso's island rises from the wind-dark waters like promise of perfect love. The nymph's offer of immortality, carrying with it the chance to escape forever the burden of being human, the pain of loss, the weight of mortality that makes every choice urgent and every moment precious, because all moments must eventually end. The 7 years he spends in her cave become education in the difference between paradise and home, between perfection and completion, between the love that seeks to possess and the love that serves by letting go. Calypso's beauty cannot heal the homesickness that grows in his heart like a plant that needs different soil to flourish. Athena's intervention comes not as rescue but as recognition, the acknowledgement that some souls have earned the right to complete their journeys even when easier paths present themselves, that some forms of faithfulness deserve divine support even when human wisdom would counsel acceptance of perfectly reasonable alternatives. The storm that wrecks his raft and casts him naked onto scariest shores strips away everything but essence, reducing the hero who conquered Troy to the fundamental humanity that no achievement can transcend, no reputation can disguise, no cleverness can substitute for when the soul stands before final judgment. The Phaeacians receive him not as famous wanderer, but as anonymous supplicant, their kindness flowing not from recognition of his achievements, but from the simple hospitality that sees in every stranger the possibility of entertaining divine messengers unaware. The tale he tells to their assembled court becomes more than mere entertainment. It transforms individual experience into universal story, personal journey into mythic pattern that will guide all future wanderers who find themselves far from home with no compass but memory, no map but hope, no companions but the dreams that refuse to die even when everything else has been lost. Ship that finally carries him home to Ithaca sails, not just across physical water, but through the mysterious passage between story and reality, between the realm where impossible things happen and the world where ordinary life must be, rebuilt from whatever materials survive the fire of extraordinary experience. He awakens on familiar shores but recognizes nothing. Athena's mist transforming the homeland he has dreamed about for 20 years into landscape as foreign as any he encountered in his wanderings. The lesson teaches itself that home is not place but recognition, not geography but relationship, not destination but the quality of attention that sees the sacred in the familiar. Reunion with Penelope happens not through simple recognition but through the complex dance of two souls learning to know each other again after decades of separation have transformed them both into versions of themselves that existed only in potential when they last embraced. Her test of the olive tree bed becomes more than verification of identity. It proves that some things endure not because they are preserved unchanged, but because they grow deeper roots during the seasons of separation, because they draw strength from sources that absence cannot touch, because they participate in forms of permanence that transcend the temporary disruptions that circumstances impose. The slaughter of the suitors transforms the great hall from place of abuse into space of justice. But the violence required teaches the sobering lesson that restoration sometimes demands destruction, that healing sometimes requires the surgical removal of what has grown corrupt beyond all possibility of reform. Asterisk, asterisk. Yet even justice must know its limits. Even righteousness must learn restraint. Athena's intervention stops the cycle of revenge before it can transform justice into mere perpetuation of violence, teaching both victor and defeated that some victories are only worth winning if they create the conditions for lasting peace rather than temporary supremacy. The final reconciliation between Odysseus and his people happens not through overwhelming force but through divine mediation. The understanding that communities torn apart by long absence and bitter conflict need more than human wisdom to knit themselves back together into patterns that serve life rather than perpetuating death. As his story finds its peaceful conclusion in the halls of Ithaca, you feel the great wheel of myth completing its revolution, all the heroes finding their proper places in the eternal constellation of stories that will guide human souls through whatever darkness they encounter in their own journeys toward whatever homes wait for them beyond the horizons of immediate vision. The golden age of heroes draws to its gentle close, but closure brings not ending but transformation. The stories themselves become immortal, outliving the flesh that first embodied them, continuing to teach their lessons to generations yet unborn, offering their guidance to souls yet uncreated, providing their inspiration to hearts that will beat in times and places unimaginable to those who first lived these adventures. Perseus still flies across star-scattered skies on Pegasus's wings, his victory over Medusa teaching all future heroes that some enemies can only be faced indirectly. Some truths can only be approached through reflection rather than direct confrontation. Heracles continues his eternal labors in the realm where strength serves love, his apotheosis reminding mortal heart that power finds its highest expression in protection rather than domination, service rather than conquest, the patient work of making the world safe for all that is gentle and vulnerable and beautiful. The Argonauts sail still through waters of imagination, their fellowship demonstrating for all time that the greatest treasures can only be won through cooperation. That individual excellence finds its completion in collective achievement, that the most impossible dreams become possible when enough hearts commit to shared purpose. The walls of Troy rise and fall eternally in the realm of story, each generation learning anew the lessons about honor and duty, love and loss, the terrible arithmetic that calculates the price of glory and finds it sometimes worth paying, sometimes too dear for any mortal purse to hold. Odysseus continues his journey, home through landscapes both geographical and spiritual, his wanderings teaching every soul that reads his story something essential about the relationship between adventure and belonging, between the call of the far horizon and the pull of the familiar hearth. You drift now in the space between sleeping and waking, held in the gentle embrace of stories that have become larger than the lives that first contained them, warmer than any fire ever kindled by Prometheus's gift, more nourishing than any feast ever served at the tables of gods or mortals. The myths themselves have become your companions now, their voices joining in lullabies that sing of human potential touched by divine grace, of mortal courage blessed by immortal wisdom, of ordinary souls learning to carry extraordinary light through whatever darkness they encounter on their own paths toward home. These stories will continue to live and grow and teach, long after the last star has burned to ash, long after the final mountain has been worn to sand by the patient work of wind and rain, long after time itself has learned to rest from its eternal labor of carrying all things forward, toward whatever lies beyond the edge of even divine imagination. Sleep now in the eternal embrace of myth and dream, of story and song, of all the heroes who have ever lived and all the heroes yet to come. Rest in the understanding that you too are part of this great tale. Your own life a thread in the tapestry that began with chaos and will continue beyond endings. Your own choices adding verses to the song that started when the first voice learned to sing and will echo until the last ear learns to. Listen, the Greek myths fade now like stars at dawn, not disappearing but becoming invisible in the greater light that their stories have helped to kindle. They remain present in every act of courage, every choice to serve others before self, every moment when mortal hearts reach toward divine possibility and find that the reaching itself transforms the reach, makes heroes of ordinary souls who dare to believe that love is stronger than fear, hope more powerful than despair, story more eternal than silence. Dream now of golden fleeces and winged sandals, of shields that reflect truth and swords that serve justice, of ships that sail beyond the edge of maps and heroes who return home transformed by wonders that change not just the wanderer but the very meaning of wandering itself. Let the myths carry you into sleep as deep and peaceful as the rest that comes to travelers who have finally reached their destination, as gentle and renewing as the dreams that visit souls who have learned that every ending is also beginning, every conclusion also commencement, every sleep also preparation for whatever wonders wait in the dawn that always comes for those who trust the turning of the cosmic wheel. The story continues in your dreams, as it always has, as it always will. World without end, myth without limitation, love without boundary. In the eternal realm where gods and mortals dance together and every soul discovers that it too has always been, and will always be, hero of its own imperishable tale.